Welcome to Meadowbrook Memories Podcast. I am Jelly, otherwise known as Glacier Prince, and my co-host is Hitchcock, otherwise known as Alfred Henry. Our mission on this podcast series is to explore the stories behind the magic that was created at Meadowbrook. When over a span of 4 years, between 1982 and 1986, we saw the transformation of a small coeducational school with less than 1,200 students, 800 boys, 800 girls and 400 boys into a successful sports and scholastic champion, winning 7 major trophies, 3 Sunlight Cup, 2 Topping Cup, 1 Walker Cup, and 1 Nutriment Shield. And to crown these achievements, Meadowbrook also produced 2 Rhodes Scholars, Cavell Creighton in 1987 and Andrea Wright in 1989, both graduates of Meadowbrook in 1983. In this podcast series, we'll be speaking to persons, both males and female, who were actively involved in this incredible journey, along with friends and staff at Meadowbrook, which inspired the environment which created this golden era. We hope you enjoy our discussion. Please give us as much support and encouragement as you can on whatever social media platform you are listening. Welcome and thanks for joining us. Alright, ready. So remember to like, share and subscribe these Meadowbrook Memories podcasts so neither you nor your friends will miss another Meadowbrook conversation. Thanks. Go. Today is Sunday, January 15, 2023, and welcome back to another conversation about Meadowbrook Memories. Me as usual, Glacier, our Prince, our Lance, our Jelly, and by now you know say anyone of those names will do. Our co-host this week, and yes, we have 2 co-hosts because we have a blockbuster guest of 3. As a matter of fact, one from the other side of the pond, as the British would say, or as the Yankees would say, on both sides of the Atlantic. Our first co-host is one and only Margaret Livermore, who really don't need no introduction because she was a guest on episode number 22, and you need to go and listen to her story. And she's primarily responsible for getting a lot of females who are shy, and still shy to come on this conversation because them think say Jelly a big time bowler will rough them up, and that's not the case at all. But Meadowbrook Memories will be eternally grateful for Margaret for getting most of the females who join this conversation. Our next co-host is my bona fide since we know each other at Meadowbrook in the 1980s, and this conversation is episode number 14. And you should all go back and listen to his conversation. So Meadowbrook, welcome back, Tony Moore. Our first guest, as I say, is from across the pond and started Meadowbrook in 1978. Left in 1985, was captain of the school challenge team, was deputy head girl, and she credits the geography teachers at Meadowbrook for her love for geography, which I think is an integral part of her career choice. But she's here to share her own Meadowbrook memories in her own words. Our next guest also started in 1978 and left in 1985. He was house captain for that great house, Ratney. And not because our guests and I were members of that great house. It is the only house at Meadowbrook we have a hall named after it. And Ratney Hall is the official name of the Assembly Hall at Meadowbrook, for those who want to know. Anyway, our guest was also a student council president, captain of the debate team. He represented Meadowbrook at the International Youth Conference in 1985. But we are not going to say too much about those exploits in the beginning because our guest is here to give his own story. Our last guest, and definitely by no means least, because he's the one primarily responsible for this conversation happening today, because he was the one who inspired to call my good friend Wayne Fuller, and the rest is history. And that's why we are here today. So Dave, I want to thank you personally for getting the inspiration to call Wayne, and Wayne reached out to me. Our guest started Meadowbrook in 1978, left in 1985. He was a member of the school challenge team, the table tennis team, the badminton team, trained with the winning Walker Cup 86 team, and also trained the Colts team with 2 of the great cricketers of that era, Clive Edwards and Leon Jono Johnson. Eddie's conversation can be heard on episode number 19, and John's conversation will be coming out very soon. But without further ado, our guests are here to share their own Meadowbrook memories. So Meadowbrook memories welcome Sarah Blair, Easton Leiba, and Dave Robertson. Introduce yourself first, Sarah. I'm going to start with you with most of these questions because I had a female here. So go ahead, Sarah. Introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to the conversation. Dave was instrumental in asking if I'd join him, so glad to be here.
Welcome. And Easton, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yes, Easton Leiba, class of 83, graduating class. Also started there with Sarah, Dave, and Margaret, who's on the call. And appreciate the shout from Dave for getting me to be a part of this as well.
And Dave, go ahead and introduce yourself, my brother.
Good evening, everybody. Prince, thanks for inviting us to the call, to the podcast. I credit Wayne Fuller, who is a man that didn't attend his full tenure at Meadowbrook, but loved Meadowbrook probably more than all of us on this call. And, it was he who sent me the first podcast that you did. I think it might have been the one with Clive.
It was,
when I listened,
it was Minot, Maurice Minot.
Minot. Well, no, the one that he sent me first was with Clive.
Clive Edwards, okay.
Yeah. And just listening to Clive and Chris, both classmates, it was good to walk down that lane with them. And I figured that, we know it's not about sports alone, and I think you had indicated that in several of your interviews. And but thanks for the opportunity to come on, and I'm happy that Sarah and Easton could also join.
Yeah.
By the way, I attended Meadowbrook from 78 to 85, and an extra unofficial year in 86.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reintroduce back yourself, Margaret.
Hey, I'm Margaret Livermore, class of 83. Just here, looking forward to this conversation today. I'm expecting to laugh a lot. And I'm expecting to hear things that I have not heard before. Because we have one person here whose memory is extensive.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Yep. And Tony Moore, reintroduce back yourself, my brother.
Yes, Tony Moore. Appreciative to be on the call again, Jelly. I was thankful for these opportunities and the work that you're doing. This group you have here is sixth form all-star group. When I think of School Challenge Quiz and just talent and leadership, from Key Club to Kiwanis to School Challenge Quiz, this is the elite of elite when it comes to smarts and student leadership. So excited to be here. I'm excited to hear the conversations.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. And Sarah, I'm going to start most of these questions with you. And it's not really a question and answer thing, but most of the flow, it will just flow. I'm going to start with you. If I have a question, I'm going to start with you. And by now, if you have been hearing this conversation, the first question I ask every guest on this program.
Okay.
This conversation, not a program. Did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you?
It chose me. I had picked for Immaculate and Queens, but I knew, I've heard the answers that most people have given, but I knew Meadowbrook long before most people did. I lived 10 minutes from Meadowbrook. Reason why I chose those schools were I was quite shy and liked swimming, and both Immaculate and Queens had a pool. So my parents thought that would be good. I had an older brother who went to Meadowbrook Prep and High, and I followed in his footsteps. So long before I entered the gates, I knew of Mr. Thorpe and, of course, Spanner.
Mm-hmm. So isn't that the fact that he didn't rate Meadowbrook why I never want to come there?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. And I show you what happened, how I ended up there. Mr. Thorpe could see me the following week. The headmistress at Immaculate couldn't see me until 2 weeks later, and the place at Meadowbrook might have gone. And can remember sitting in Mr. Thorpe's office, and he said, yes, morning shift. And it's probably one of the divine intervention. Never looked back. I didn't know what it was to take a bus till I went to university. I lived 10 minutes from school.
So you had actually passed Immaculate, Sarah?
No, they put me down for Excelsior.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Wow.
And
Who couldn't have that?
The far stretch.
Would not be a good fit.
I could have seen Margaret on Mountain View Avenue, Tony. Yes, yes. Not
Not
Margaret, sorry,
Sarah
Sarah.
Maggie.
Sarah, sorry, I could have seen
Yeah.
Mountain View Avenue last a week.
well, let's just say when my mother found my name eventually, it was she's not going there. Need to change this. Need to sort it out now.
Okay. So Meadowbrook became.
Meadowbrook came home.
Meadowbrook came.
Destiny.
Yeah. And you say you live 10 minutes from the school. Where exactly was that? What was that, Sarah?
Meadowbrook Mews, Tunbridge Terrace.
Oh yeah, man. I know the area good.
In fact, I think your sister lived on Hialeah Drive at one point.
Yeah, man. I remember that well. 20th Hialeah Drive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because she asked me one day to walk her kids up to the prep school.
Yes.
Never forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That you have good memory, Sarah. Yes. I used to carry them home. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Hey, may I interrupt a little bit, because I just had this flashback. This when Sarah was walking, she had a typical folder in front of her, and she had a power walk. Who can attest to Sarah's power walk?
I can. I remember it well.
Yeah, man. You know who Sarah's walk remind me of? If any of you went to a cast, Sarah's walk remind me of Dr. Sangster. Alfred Sangster.
Yes.
I'll take that.
Wow.
I know you're talking, Dave. I know exactly what you're talking. Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
Almost regal.
And strong and
a strong presence.
Yeah.
Presence, strong presence. Leadership from then, Sarah.
But by the way, Sarah, how you knew that was my sister?
I think because the Ramsey girls were very good friends of mine. Saffron. I went to prep school, high school, university with Saffron.
Yeah.
My mom worked just beyond the university as a nurse. So if we wanted a lift up in the morning, it was like leaving home at 6:15 because she had to be there for 7. And my dad did a pickup, and that was Saffron. And I realized later on that it had been your sister. So the days that my dad couldn't do it, Mr. Ramsey, or in fact, Patrick used to do it very occasionally. He'd drop Camille at the bank, and then he'd drop us at university and Alison at class.
Yeah, man. Let me clear. My sister actually live on Hialeah. You're talking about Alison. That's my sister-in-law. Yeah. But my sister did live on Hialeah Drive. My older sister. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
She went to Meadowbrook.
So
yeah.
I walked that road 15 years.
Yeah, interesting, Sarah. All I can visualize is you and Excel to Mountain View Avenue. I must say. So Easton, did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you?
Meadowbrook chose me, but nonetheless, I'm grateful. So I actually had picked for JC and Calabar, and I think Woolman's was my third choice. And so when the common entrance results came out, I thought I failed because my name was nowhere to be found because I'm looking everywhere else, And my 2 elder brothers and all the male in my family were at Calabar. So immediately now the chain was in motion to get me into Calabar because I failed the common entrance until my aunt came screaming saying, oh, he passed. Actually, I had a government scholarship for Meadowbrook, but I thought I had failed because I wasn't looking there. I knew nothing about the school, and didn't even know where it was because I went to Halfway Tree Primary, but it was just a few years before that we relocated from Clarendon, so I wasn't even familiar with Kingston. So Meadowbrook was it, and I insisted that I was going to go because of the unknown, and I saw it as an adventure, also like a little escape from my brothers who were established already at Calabar. So that's how I ended up on my journey at Meadowbrook.
You had no problem at all. You want to establish your independence from early, if you say you want to chart your own way.
My own way, and not under their shadow, because I was under their shadow in primary school. And then I'm going to end up back under their shadow in high school. I said, no, so young enough, but focused enough to know that I wanted to get away from them. And thankfully, it did work out. So.
And for the record, Easton, you say you were half a tree primary. Where
Yes.
exactly you live that you are picked for, well, let's say Calabar or JC, where exactly you live, the convenience to the schools?
For Meadowbrook, at the time I was living off Mullines Road.
Okay, that's close enough.
Yeah.
That's close enough.
It was close enough, but I didn't care where it was. I passed for it, and one of the things that kind of struck me too was, even though my common entrance choices were for JC, Calabar, and Wolmer's, now I realize this is a co-ed school, so I'm thinking differently now, you know? So I said, well, let me go try this thing rather than go to an all-boys school. So a number of things went through my head when I realized that I passed it and I'm trying to convince myself I'm going to the school. Then all of the other things start coming through my head to make it worth the while going, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And you,
Government
Dave?
scholarship, Easton. 1 second, Jerry. Government scholarship, Easton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good point, Tony. Good thing you pick up that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because explain to
Didn't know
people
that.
mean Eastern. Because I remember government
That was
scholarship
common
means
entrance.
you're bright sparks. And you know
Yeah.
you have to pay when you come to school. I
So
said that go?
yes, I got the books and tuition, but it could have been a fluke along the way, and then my well-learned other three on the call will maybe can say if it was really worth the while or what. I don't know, but so it was, and I came on that, so I didn't have to get booked. But I think that lasted maybe like the first 2 years because the bookshop never really existed after the
Close
first
on.
month, and the tuition never really go up beyond that. But for whatever it was worth, that's what it was.
No, it worked. I
Still a major distinction, though, Easton. That's still a huge distinction, man.
Thank you, Tony.
Don't gloss over that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Easton, because that's no small achievement at all. When I go primary school and I went to primary, when a man get a government scholarship, a big thing that, man. You don't forget.
Big deal.
Okay.
Big thing. No, seriously, it's like
Yeah.
It's like your road scholar at primary level. You say, right, that money a big thing.
Exactly right.
Maybe that was the first call into Meadowbrook because it never worked for the other schools, but Meadowbrook called and it came with the government scholarship. I look at it that way.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I know if a man get a government scholarship, I say, right, him good.
Smart.
Yeah.
Big deal.
My bright sparks, exactly. No matter which school you go, Easton, exactly. So, Dave, did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you?
I'll answer it this way. I'll tell you what happened, and you tell me if Meadowbrook chose me or not. Because I from ever since I've been listening to your podcast, and you've asked that question of other guests. I'm baffling over the question, but anyway, to cut a long story short, my mother chose Calabar and Meadowbrook. Actually, Meadowbrook was the first choice. The simple reason is Meadowbrook was like 10 minutes walking distance from my house. Because I never lived too far from Sarah. Yeah, never lived too far from Sarah. And I passed the common entrance to go there. So, it wasn't a major issue for me. I had two friends on the street who went to Wolmer's Boys. And I actually wanted to go to Wolmer's Boys. And some others went to St. George's. But it was more Wolmer's Boys that I thought I would want to go to because my friends went there. But going to Meadowbrook was never an issue. It was a natural thing given where I was at the time. It was an easy choice.
Yeah, so what school you were going at the time, Dave?
Oh, I was going to Hilltop Prep off Manningsville Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right behind Swallowfield Audiage. Swallowfield Audiage.
Yeah. I know where you're talking. Exactly where you're talking. So yeah. So you were familiar with the school and everything. Have you ever, before you come from Meadowbrook then, before you chose to Meadowbrook was like a part of you?
Yeah, because I had to pass Meadowbrook every day to go to Hilltop. In fact, I don't know if you remember Hurlingham Prep.
Yes.
Sarah might remember.
Yes.
So I used to go to Hurlingham Prep before I went to Hilltop. and used to walk there too, with my mother and thing and a neighbor. In fact, another young, good friend, best friend at the time. We were like 4 years old when we started off there. I think I spent 1 year. He lived right beside me on Larry's Close, and that's where I started off going first. Then I went to Hilltop and stayed there until I went to Meadowbrook. But a number of other Meadowbrook people were at Hilltop with me. People like Sean King, Alvern, Goldburn, Joseph Wilson, Dale Robertson. I don't know if he spent all of the 5 years at Meadowbrook, but several people from Hilltop also went over to Meadowbrook. Yeah.
So
that's.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's and I'm sure there are others, but those are the ones that stick are close to mind.
So you say you live 10 minutes from Meadowbrook. Where exactly you used to live, Dave?
So I had to pass Yolande's house.
Okay.
So I live near Bottomfield. Yeah. Yeah.
So you wouldn't give your address at Bottomfield like Yolande?
Well, anybody, I can't say this because most of the people I won't see ever again. But but Bridget Ronnie Banks, it was I think he came to America in third form with Albert. Ron used to jokingly call me Bottomfield boy.
You live so close to Bottomfield. I hear you.
Yeah. But no, seriously, I passed. Let me tell you, I passed Valerie Hughes' house.
Yeah.
Pass Yolande's house. Pass Camille McLeod's house. Pass Gary Salesman and Paul Salesman's houses. And Dean Clark. And Saffron and her sisters.
Camille,
yeah. Pass Reverend Cook house. All the way to come up. And where the same road that Mr. Bell Nevis live and Terry Long and them on there. Yeah. So not to mention the people on Highland Drive.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Hurlingham Drive. People like Floods. You know about Floods, right?
Yeah, man.
Floods.
We're right name again. I'm the first name of Kevin. What's last name?
Morris? No, Morris? Something Morris.
Yes.
Kevin
Morris.
Yeah. No.
Cadet Floods.
Cadet Floods. Bugle Boy Floods.
Bugle Boy Floods.
Yeah, man.
He's in Miami now. Margaret, he's in Miami, close to you guys,
Oh, yeah? Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Floods. Yeah, man. Yes, I remember him good. He wasn't at the cadet and all of it, but yeah.
Yeah, man. He used to run track too.
Yeah, Floods used to run track.
Long distance. Distance.
Yeah, long distance. 4 and 8, I think.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Or 8 and 15, but yeah.
Or something like that,
Yeah.
So, Sarah, when you come Meadowbrook on the first, you say you were familiar with the campus, you're familiar with Mr. Top. When you came there for the first day as a student now, how did you feel in terms of that? Did the campus look any different to you, or when you're walking on the campus?
Well, you're walking with a different attitude now. I can't remember. My dad drove me up the first day and he said, you want me to come in with you? I said, no. So I just got out the car, slammed the door and walked in and went into the assembly hall where we were all gathered. Some parents were there. And then it was, your name was called out and you were put into the class, and that was it. And a couple of friends from prep school were in the same class. Saffron, Kerry Lamb, and that was it. And off we went to the classroom.
So is there anything that stand out to you in the first term, like the campus, the school itself, and the friends, and the incident that stand out that you remember?
I think it was just getting to know people. I think Chris summed it up, Chris Cheddar, when he gave his interview. You don't know anyone and you're kind of building relationships in that awkward period of that first term. I guess what I realized then is that I hated Spanish. Couldn't stand Spanish, but I regret it now, living so close to Spain. Yeah, it was just finding a way that first year and doing things that, subjects that I didn't like, needlework. Home economics was a bit easier, but yeah, PE. I can remember the first PE class. Some of us hadn't come prepared, and Miss McLennan came out on the court and gave us like one of our first tongue lashings, and I'm saying, "Oh my God, this is going to set the stage for the next 5 years."
Oh, year you started, Miss McLean was principal, or Mr. Top was still there?
No, she was. Mr. Thorpe was principal, and Miss McLennan was acting. I don't know if Margaret remembers that.
She
We were
was
on a
vice
netball
principal at the
court.
time.
Just vice principal,
until-
Yeah.
Don't worry, Margaret will never forget Mr. Top. So I just forget that.
Really,
I
Jelly, you
know.
gone there again?
Right, Tony? We're talking that.
Exactly, sir.
Yeah. So Easton, you came to Meadowbrook. No, you were unaware where Meadowbrook was. What
Yes.
was it like when you come on there on the first day at the campus and say, or the
Well,
first term?
Because it was brand new, and my school, there was nobody else that passed for Meadowbrook. So when I get there the first day, you don't see no familiar faces around because there was nobody there from my school. And then I spot this girl who turned out to be Monique Stennett.
Yes, I remember her well too. Yeah.
And she went to Halfway Tree Primary, and she was a year ahead of me. So I'm trying to cling on to her now because it's the one face I know. And she never know me because I was below her at primary school, but she and one of my brothers were in the same class. So right away, that was my everywhere I'm looking. But now I'm realizing that the school is way bigger. So I'm not gonna spell like I come from a small primary school. So the school is big. You have court, the table tennis, the lawn tennis and netball court. So my goal was to keep tracking this girl the whole time, so I would feel comfortable with some familiar face,
Mm-hmm.
But like Sarah said, we went to the assembly hall, and by the time we were assigned to our class now, and we start meeting all of the other class. I was in 1C, and our form teacher was Mrs. Lysett. And she was just a beautiful lady, just looking at her. So you feel at home, and then her soul, she was a very warm and welcoming person, and a lot of the people in the class knew each other as well. And Dale Robertson was in that class, Dave. The same guy you were referring to. He was in my class in 1C, Dale Robertson. Right. So
that was morning shift, right?
Morning shift, correct.
Yeah.
One. So everybody started making familiarization with themselves, exchanging, names and where they come from and all of those things. So again, I look at it as an adventure, but the school itself was so welcoming, and the buildings were pretty new, and I came from an old school, even though it was, primary school, it was very old. So everything was just very welcoming to me, so I didn't feel out of place, even though I knew no one there.
Mm-hmm. So that was the first year that the new buildings were up?
I don't know where the first buildings, when you come in and they had like the little, the new type of roof and stuff like that. It could be this was in 78, but these were all new, and the school, it just looked brand new to me. It had a nice library because I'm comparing to where I'm coming from. And I don't know.
The new buildings you're referring to are down by Mr. Top property, right?
No.
First farm block. The first farm blocks.
Man, first farm block. First and second farm.
First farm block. Yeah. First and second farm block.
And the two as you walk in by the staff room.
But that matter of fact, Easton and Dave, it's like the new building I'm referring to is the staff room itself. That wasn't there when I started. I think that staff room finished 1977. You remember?
No, that was there when I started. Yeah.
Timon was a year ahead, right?
No, he was in
2 years.
2 years. Okay. So I think that's when the new building opened up, 1976. Then, if when it started,
So we know staff room as it is now.
Right. No.
And
when I went there 74, the staff room was there. And let me, as I say, Ratney Hall was, not
Yeah,
the Assembly Hall. Let me call it straight.
Behind it.
behind it was behind the Assembly Hall in the
Yeah,
same
man,
building, right?
upstairs. Mr. Top of it was upstairs. Yes, exactly,
Right,
exactly. Yeah,
right, right,
yeah.
right.
That's what I was trying.
Yeah,
But it's when I was there. No, 2 years below him, man. So it was a fairly new building to anyway, as I say. Fairly new. So Easton,
Yeah.
what before I go to you, David, what it was like to come and see the campus, the feeling of the campus. I remember when I got started in Meadowbrook, I can't forget, after all this, I can't forget the willow tree, them are whistling on my ears.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a lasting impression, like I said. But the novelty of coming from a primary school where we had nothing, we didn't even have play field. There was no sport. It was just one little building. But I come now and there's a library, and you see the tennis court, the netball court, like you said, the willow tree. But I was also impressed by the uniform because I'd never seen this before, the plaid and stuff like that. Everybody was dressed immaculately and stuff like that. So it was more than novelty and getting used to it, but you just got this feeling of being somewhere that you belong, even though you knew no one there. You just felt welcoming, and you felt like, okay, you're starting out on this journey, but so far you cannot foresee any regrets.
Yeah, I too was impressed by the uniform, Easton, especially the girls' uniform, the original
Yeah.
ones, not the ones afterward where I didn't like at all. The original ones where you could actually see through, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, that's a whole different story, but I know the one you're talking because that's what the upper school girls were wearing when we came.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you come, when you start wear the one I call a carpet uniform, it's just so thick.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, yes.
So like me, I
I
say,
do
man,
know.
me I call it up, me see it, me I say, from this nice uniform when me can just sit through, and all of a sudden, them put it in a carpet. Me I say, what is?
They
Seriously.
probably choose it for a particular reason.
Maybe that was the reason why I threw Easton. Enough of that for true. Enough.
Yeah.
So Dave, I know you're familiar
Yes,
with the area and familiar with the school. Did you ever go up a Meadowbrook campus before you started?
No, I never went on a campus before. Always passed it, always looked over there. Was never really curious per se. I don't think. But I think in the year leading up to common entrance, my mother, would indicate to me that it's one of the schools that she was choosing to go, and I kind of knew that I was gonna go there. Because of just by virtue of proximity and her talking to me about which schools we're to choose for when we pass common entrance, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So yeah, but I never went on a campus before. Just passed by. Remember the low fence, top field,
Yeah, man.
the build. I didn't remember when the buildings were built, but even though I used to pass there every day, but just know that hey, this school is only high school I really did know because I never had to go further than one exit road because there were no other high schools around. I might occasionally pass Calabar, and Calabar was more a bush. So that's what I used to call it, Calabush, as you know.
Yeah.
And it's way off the main road, right? You couldn't see from the main road at all, no.
Yeah, Calabar campus was like a university campus, but just full of bush.
Yeah.
Huge.
So
I passed there recently, and the place looked nice. I mean, the front of the school looked. I mean, it's like
Remarkable.
yeah, man, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
Old boys did that for them.
So what was it like, Dave? Your first day or your first term on the campus when you come on? What was it like?
So I don't fully remember. I remember very few details about my first day. Just remember that my first day was my birthday, and I just turned 11 years old, and it was a bit somewhat nerve-wracking because I was never an outgoing type of guy, is more introverted those days than adventurous. So it was assembly hall, and then I think I found out I think they said report to school at about 12:30 or 11:30 or sometime like that, and and then they did all of the class assignments and stuff. I ended up in, I think it was 1C, 1C2,
Yeah,
1C2.
I just talk about that, Dave. Talk about that. But I'm trying to can't comment on this. That was the first year that the shift system was introduced.
Yes, that was the first year.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on second shift. I can't remember who else from my prep school was on second shift as well. But my form teacher was Miss Parks.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those buildings that you mentioned before, all of those were new buildings for us. So I ended up going down to the three classrooms that take you straight down to home economics building.
Mm-hmm.
Right, just beside the bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and then to the right of the bookstore, in front of the bookstore, the second farm block, and then upstairs was sixth farm block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember my first few days at school. I remember name people like found out the names later. People like Devon Panton,
Mm-hmm.
Janice Beecher,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what's his name again? Vivian Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Head boy
Mhm.
one time. So, yeah.
Head boy, right.
Yeah.
Like walking down the stairs, so that people like Devon and Vivian, were like big man, and it's geared up and everything, and the man in face bend, and them, them just look intimidating. So the man, and them look on him like them strike the fear of God in your heart, So they say, look at me, let's go stay by this old Malay and just stay away from all them guys, But they look really, let's say adult or responsible in the white shirts and the ties.
Yeah.
It was a different look. The tunic that they wore, the girls in sixth form, and the white shirt and the tie and thing. Really, really, throughout the years, it's always complimented their physique.
Mm-hmm. Kind of
And the guys, of course, man used to wear them tie over them shoulder and all kind of thing, but that's what we used to do. It's a tradition that came straight up to our time.
Yeah, man, you tie your tie and fling it over your shoulder.
Fling it over your shoulder, yeah.
Well, let me ask you
And
something.
of course,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes.
Finish up, and let me ask a question.
No, I was saying, but then of course, if you don't wear epaulets, them is the epaulet police, and them say, boy, if you wear epaulette, that kind of a thing.
Jenny, if I may chip in a little bit, just to add on to people like Panton and Mr. Thomas, and I would even put China in that and I was 1 year below these guys, but the leadership that the presence those guys had was serious as prefects in the school. But I also want to say that this group of guys, Easton, Dave, and Sarah, later became that for other students, because they were also strong prefects that also led the school and was probably perceived the same way. So.
No, what I want to ask you, Dave, and this go for you to Sarah and Easton, you can answer after Dave answer, is the first year shift system, and you were on second shift, Dave. What was it like? Did you feel any different to come to school at 12:30? Because I can't imagine me I come to school at 12:30. That's a foreign concept to me. The shift system, I didn't like it. But
I actually liked it. First of all, I liked that I didn't have to get up early to come to school. I did that for 10 years or however many years going to prep school. But of course, I was being driven.
Mm-hmm.
So the year, the fact that I could just walk 10 minutes, I take my time and get ready and come to school on second shift was fine with me. I loved it actually. The only thing that I had to adjust to was the study time. So, you get your assignments, you either go home and try and do them, but then of course you got home. What time did we finish second shift? Was it 4:30 or 5?
No, 5. It was about 5.
5.
Right. And if you either went to discipline yourself and do your homework before you go roll ball or something, and by which time it ain't be too late, or you try to do your schoolwork between dinner time and bedtime, and that didn't always work out so good for me. So
you, at no time you felt like it wasn't a part of Meadowbrook. You're coming at the evening.
No, I mean, it was a different feeling. And a lot of the guys that I knew from prep school were on morning shift, and then when I go on morning shift, there was an evening shift. So I think like for like Sarah, Sarah, when did we get together with Gary and them guys? Was it from first form or was it before we went to Meadowbrook? You
Yeah,
remember?
well, I knew the salesman brothers because they're friends with my brother. So
Right.
Gary and Paul have always been in my life. It's like,
Right, but for you and I mean, because
I
I
think it
didn't
would have been
necessarily.
in probably the summer holidays of the first year.
Some of the first year, right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. So Sarah was on morning shift, I was on evening shift, but we didn't get to know each other, until we were on summer break,
So,
riding our bicycles.
so let me ask you this, Sarah, because it's just something just come up because the conversation flowed away there. When you come in and you're on morning shift, did you feel like you were different than the people on evening shift?
Not really, because you never really saw them. Because as you finish, I think first, third form finished at about 12:30, and they were either having devotion or, if you remember, PE was always like the last two periods of the day. So they would then move into the classroom. So there was not that much interaction with them. I mean, I personally didn't like it. It was just a whole different adjustment that you're getting up. Yeah, you're getting up later. But then you're going to school, and it just meant you couldn't do anything in the afternoon because you're at school.
Yeah, but for you only had 1 year of it anyway. So
yes, you had two. Yeah.
What I mean, so hold on, before I come to that, Easton, what were you on morning shift or evening shift when you just started?
I started out morning shift, and so we would only see them, like, say, for example, they come in, they have assembly. As Sarah said, most of our last classes were before they came up, but sometimes you would see them, like if the class didn't finish on time or wrapping up, then you would see them line up out the classroom because they have to wait until we come out to come in.
Right.
So we would see them. I remember Dave and I remember Michelle Tapper and a few of them from his class because they're lining up out there,
Yeah.
The only thing I felt was somehow, can't we just be all one? Because we don't know them. We're just walking by and passing, The only other thing I didn't like about the second shift, even though we only did it the 1 year, is, back then they had the daylight saving time. So when we leave school and going home, it's dark.
Pitch black.
So is that you're not accustomed to that because all your life you're going to school in daylight, you go home in sun bright and hot, but now, and especially if you get detention, then sundown before you come out detention,
That was your early introduction to Welcome to America.
Yeah. I don't know if Margaret remembers it. You remember when we were in second form, we were in that classroom just off the staff room, and the sixth form was in the opposite us, and then you had the technical drawing classroom, and the only excitement for the whole year was two of the teachers and catch up in the woodwork. One bashed the other.
Oh yes,
somebody else.
You remember that?
Mr. Francis from the metal shop.
Yeah.
Was it?
So
and one of them never saw him again.
Godman Francis.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a famous fight, Tony. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So the shift system only lasted 2 years.
Well, we got together by the time
3 years.
Everybody came together, so we never have it after that.
By third farm, okay.
Yeah, third farm, everybody came together in the one shift.
Yeah,
well,
no, fourth
we were
farm
still on
came
shift.
together.
It was fourth farm that we came together.
Fourth farm, right? But third farm, they mixed us all up. But it's still, but they had mixed us all up in third farm.
Yes, because you had to choose at the time which stream you want to go into.
Right. So
which was in and of itself traumatic for me, but in particular.
When you mean choose, like you pick a class or the time you go to school?
No, chemistry, business, arts.
Subjects.
All the subjects when you go, and that will depend on whether they go morning or evening.
No. Depend on how they regroup you in fourth and fifth form.
Okay, yeah.
So at the end of the third year.
No, I understand that. The shift system part.
The shift system went from 78, 79, 80 for 3 years.
Yes. The
And then so
third farm, there was no more second shift.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
man, Dave wasn't. Dave, you never go.
Man,
Had
yeah,
second
man.
shift in third farm.
Yeah, man. I was in second. I did 2 years of second shift.
Yeah,
2 years
man. So it
Oh, but
was
they
first
mix
three
and
up,
third
years.
they mix
farm.
up everybody. Okay, that's where I'm messing up
No,
because
no, if you guys remember, after the second year, they kept one group on evening shift. The last year, they kept them on evening shift twice.
Right. So that is what happened to me. So I
yeah,
started off on evening shift in first farm. Second farm, I went to first shift, and then third farm, I went back to evening shift, and then fourth
Right.
farm onwards, it was all morning shift.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Third farm was when they mix us up, not the second and third, not first and second shift. The classes them because there were
Right.
people. I started out in first and second farm, but in third farm we were never together again. They just
Right.
shuffled.
Because after you chose the subjects you want to
I
do.
understand
Your
what you're saying
major, you
now.
pick your major.
Okay.
Right. Right.
They, they mixed us up, right?
one really, I said, by the time I reached fourth farm, that experiment was over.
Yes.
No, no, no. I think they still had second and first shift, but I don't know when they actually, if they have a
No,
morning
they
shift.
stopped it. My year, because I was a year below you guys, and when we were in second form, that was the final year of it. So it was 3 years a shift.
Gotcha.
It was 3
Oh,
years. Yeah,
gotcha. I
at the
didn't even know
fourth
that.
farm there
Yeah,
was no more.
Yeah, that was an
yeah.
experiment that didn't end too soon for me at all. Because
But Chelly, I'll tell you this, and this is important because I did not know what I was missing on second shift compared to first shift. Because people at Miss Edlam went out of their ways to make you feel welcome, and the vibe was still there. You still got to go to the sporting events. There were some advantages that you would come in later, but it wasn't until I had a chance to get first shift assembly and see how much bigger it was and how more produced it was that I realized that there was a difference. But
Yeah.
the staff on the second shift did everything to not make you feel like you were missing
no,
anything.
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, you make a good point there, Tony, because I forgot that it was morning shift. It was Mr. Thorpe. In fact, the faculty was almost all the faculty was present on the morning shift as far as assembly hall was concerned. So it was Mr.
Right.
Thorpe and Spanner and probably Mrs. Headlam and Dr. Morris, right? Yeah, on the second shift assembly, rarely, if ever, would you see Spanner there. You'd see Mrs. Headlam.
This is headline.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. She would be the main person because she was vice principal or acting vice principal, and it was over the evening shift.
And
So it's interesting that you say that.
and I'm not discounting it, Tony. I'm just saying because thinking upon it, it created a lot of opportunity because if they never created those shift system, a lot of people wouldn't get to go to high school.
True.
That's right.
So
Right.
it's not that I don't appreciate it. I know it was because this is no complicated. It was like, but it looked like it worked. Not look like it did work. Because all I know here, and the call went through the shift system and look how it turned
Yeah.
out. So it's like we can't. But you see me
Well,
biased,
work
I'm biased. I never experienced it at all. It just sound confusing to me. I say, I go morning, evening. Only relate to everybody at the school is like that's why I'm asking the question. That's a genuine question.
Oh, because what happened now, was we still had interfarm sports, we still had interfarm
Yes.
activities. So you still meet them. It's just that we never had the classes with them, But
Yeah.
who was who, and in the end, it worked out. They did a very good job
Yeah.
in making sure that
I-
the second shift never felt left out, and then because it rotated. We all got a taste of it, so we all knew what it was. So it wasn't a left out thing where is a certain amount go on second shift, and then the better one them on morning shift.
No, I think that's
Matter of fact,
yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
yeah, no, sorry. Yeah. With somebody referenced to PE. I think it was Sarah referenced PE after on the morning shift after the day or close to the end of the day, and I think what they did was to overlap. Arrange a timetable where evening shift PE was with morning shift PE or something to that effect, if I'm not mistaken. And to complement what you say about it working out, okay, I think that's what happened, and I didn't think about it before until talking to you guys.
Yeah,
That's why I love them. That's why I love them conversation because what
Yeah.
you said. But listen to and what I hearing is that they did an excellent job.
Yeah, we were a part of an experiment that we knew nothing about, but now that we're looking back on what we went through, it worked. it worked very good,
Work big time, Easton. Work big time because and Vivian. So go ahead, Easton. Finish up.
By the time we got to fourth form now, when they split it out, we instead of having morning shift, evening shift, we had 10-1 to 7. And that's what accommodated all the class on the same shift. You know, to me, that was a little bit, I'm not sure what the word is to use, but, you know, one implies better and 7 is down the bottom. So if you ended up in, say, 10-1 and then somebody else is all the way down in 10-7, now you feel a little disparity there as opposed to morning.
Yeah.
I was back in the middle because I was in 10-5, so it didn't bother me because, you know, I said to myself, well, you know, them 10-1 people, but we're not calling no name, Dave and Sarah, but
Actually, wasn't in 10-1. I was in 10-3.
10-5, right? And we were never.
You're talking about the other Dave.
But here we are, so it didn't matter overall, you know, Prince. Yeah. What I'm saying is, because we found our own ground, but on the surface, it did have an implication if you're looking at it, because, you know, 10-1, how I felt in the beginning was 10-1, that implicate the connotation was they are better, why we end up in 10-5 and why some people end up in 10-7, you know?
All right, I have a question for you, Easton.
Yes.
Okay, so I agree with what you were saying. First, let me just put that out there, that I agree with the implications. But when we were in first to third form and we had A, B, C, and D, you didn't feel that way?
No.
Why?
How
but
come?
That's a good question, Margaret. Why? Because I felt that way. I mean, I was in the B stream.
Yeah.
And you look on people in the C stream, and you kind of know. Because it's a standard thing with life, you know. You have to differentiate people based on their ability. Whether we like
right.
it or no.
But
I think in the first 3 years, it was less so, in my opinion, because you're coming straight from prep school. They don't know you. They might know you based on a little bit of your grades or something, but they don't know you. And I'm just placing a class and I'm just distribute everybody where them.
We were never led to feel like 1A was better than 1C or 1D. But as we grew through school now, they 10-1, 10-2,
when
10-3.
the numbers got larger, that's what I say in Easton. The numbers got
larger.
Yeah,
but
hold on one second. On that whole grading, class labeling system, we actually started off as 1 A, B, C, D, and E or something like that.
No, just a D, yeah.
Right, and then I think we changed to MHS in second form and third form.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Right, and then in fourth form now is when we went to the 10-1, 10-2 to 7.
Right,
and all the way. Since then, I think it has been that. Since then, I don't know what it is now, but I think that's what it is still.
Wasn't the first like 10-1 to 3 were those that were doing a combination of sciences, and the ones beyond that were doing business, a combination of business and arts.
And business, right, arts and
that's right. That's why.
So
that's why I didn't really feel like that, because I knew that's how they had grouped it.
Right. So that's why I said no. You get that feeling like me in particular. Like I said, I felt more. I got more out of this mix when them threw me in 10-5, because the people I met in that class, to me, meant more than the people who were in the other classes, even though I had not been with them before. But what I got out of that experience, I wondered why I was in 10-5, to be honest, because in the beginning I thought that, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I thought, not on the call though, but in general, I thought when I first was placed in 10-5, I'm like, how did I end up in 10-5 when I thought I was brighter than that? Then, no, I'm just being frank.
No.
Then I show up in the class and I saw Margaret, and Margaret was in first form in 1A. So I said, well, it can't be so bad if I'm bright girl into the class, because maybe this is where the bright one them supposed to end up and not in 10-1.
Yeah. I have a comment on that. I don't know if you remember this, right?
Yeah,
Because I understand exactly what you're saying, Easton. But
right.
it's something hard to get rid of, because no cure
Yes.
ticket, You're going to end up in an environment and look left and you look right and you say, but him brighter, armless. Him more armless than me, right? And
Right.
it's all you interpret it. When I repeat fifth form, and yes, I did repeat fifth form because I take O level at two O level I passed first, and then put me in a class called J. It was MHSJ,
Oh Lord.
right? Right. I know
For what? Joker?
hold on. The J is supposed to stand for Jamaica, But
Okay.
we call J in the classroom. You know I guess the name of we get?
Joker.
No. Jamal.
Jackass.
Jamal.
Oh,
Lord.
oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's the worst.
No, but you say Easton. You have to learn to laugh after yourself and embrace it, and I say, okay.
Yeah,
I say,
yeah.
So, so them try everything, but not care what them try. Students are going to give them own name and recognize it and say, yeah.
You're right. You're
What
right.
you take from it, because like I said, by the time I got into class, I never make it bother me anymore
No.
because
Margaret was there.
Margaret, the bright sparks was there, so you feel good.
yeah,
Yes.
so it kind of even though the bad thing that I said I didn't want to sound too bad was, and I've said this before to Margaret and I've said it to other people, was when I look around me now and I said, but wait, it's peer second shift people. Why are we in here? Because now this is my bias now of thinking that the second shift people are the dunce ones,
You see, so
So
that's why I asked the question then.
So you really felt. Okay, all right.
Exactly.
Now we know.
So, Tony, you see why I asked the question, because so come
no,
on,
but I've
Easton.
spoken about it before because
Easton, they're gonna come for you.
No,
I
them
know, but
Easton
but
have to come through me here, so don't worry yourself. Them can't come to you at all. Because all that we have the
But
prejudice.
it's a very true perspective Easton describing, and it may not be accurate. It was not accurate, but it's just how we interpreted things at that time. But once you got into your major, you realize that you were connecting with people that like thought and the arts and the business, and
right.
you can't do it,
But you know what, Tony? A couple of years ago, less than 5 years ago, somebody actually said to me that, I always wondered how you and Easton end up in the 5 stream. I'm thinking it was an experiment, And I'm thinking, what? Because it never ever crossed my mind like that. Because I always
think about it that way at all. That's exactly
no,
right. But
because
you see,
for me, it was that we were just grouped based on the subject matter. I didn't think about it like that.
No.
Well,
you go ahead, Dave. Someone like Dave. You go ahead.
Well, no. What I was gonna say is maybe it's a case where they were just trying to manage the intellect. You understand what I mean? And I'm not discriminating.
I think so.
And they're just trying to spread it out, so they have a good mix of those who would consider to be highly intellectual coming up to the previous years.
But let's face this too, the science folks, right? I'm not saying that you're more intelligent if you're inclined on the science, the physics, and the chemistry, but those were the guys that were respected academically in their subject matter, math, science, physics, and was given a little more respect than the guys that were in the arts. That's how it was at the time.
True.
That's the point I was trying to make, Tony. That's I was wondering, how did I get up in this mix? Because I never was most of the subjects that everyone in my class was doing weren't even subjects that I was doing or interested in doing, because I didn't do no business subjects or anything like that.
I didn't do any either.
But
and hence the missing text to Prince that you sent.
Yeah.
Again, there's some bigger forces behind this.
Let me say. Sometimes I win one on the text or where I text, I win one. I say, who can get this to jelly exactly? But let me say this though, because it's an interesting discussion, and I had no idea this would have reached to this depth. And I went telling her this. Margaret used the right word. All of this was an experiment. And I went tell you why I said that tonight. I didn't know this until I spoke to Vivian Thomas last week, Saturday. And film conversation I'm going to release earlier than I normally would. I'm going to release another 2 or 3 weeks because it goes straight to what we are talking about. Him talk about it in a depth and say the Reverend Henry Ward created Meadowbrook as an experimental school. Create Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook was the cutting edge. All the experimental education With a start on Meadowbrook. But when you were the conversation, when you listen, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And remember this, and remember the conversation when Vivian come out. Exactly what I'm talking about. So it was an experiment, and guess what? The experiment worked.
It did work, but let me tell you something, Prince, and a lot of people, I'm a very keen listener, right? And like I said, we were in the middle of it, but didn't know. When we had our celebration a couple years ago, and Mr. McGregor spoke, because he got some award for teaching there for so long, right? And what he said was, when Miss McLennan came and sought him out to come and teach at Meadowbrook, it was an experiment that she was conducting to create the best students and get the best out of them. Obviously, you know how that worked out, because we have Cavell and we have Andrea and we have Donat and we have all of these scholars. Yes. And I remember the year when I started, I don't know if Sarah even noticed this, when I started at UWI, Meadowbrook had the most students per capita on UWI at the campus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Is that so?
But I'd like to ask a question based on the experiment. Did you think the teachers that were teaching your grades, do you think you were, what's the word I'm looking for? There were any less than the teachers teaching the first couple of 1 to 3, 4?
No,
I would say,
let me answer this first, and then you can go. What I think, let me answer this first, Easton. What I think happening, Sarah, to answer the question, and I want your phone response. Good question, Sarah. Was the teachers that were chosen at Meadowbrook, and I think they were chosen.
Yes, they were chosen.
They were chosen. They were intellectually great, but it wasn't that alone. It wasn't that alone. There needed to be a nurturing set of people.
Yes.
And all of them became there. They were intellectual. So more than likely, you could have recognized them. Most of the teachers at Meadowbrook were young. Very young.
Yes.
So they didn't have this turn way about them early, you know. They were young and facilitating for young students for their school with experience.
Yep.
So that's what I think happened. It's not so there's no doubt about the intellect and how good they were, because it's showing that the grades and the improvement of Meadowbrook was.
Yes.
Yeah, but go ahead. I want to answer Sarah's question. I want to get some input on this.
You mean if the teachers were less for first to third?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they were, because when you look at the teachers that taught us first to third form, the art teacher, the history teacher, the English teacher, our Spanish teacher, these were, looking back, the best teachers. And speaking for myself, because I know all of the teachers that I had at Meadowbrook, every single one of them brought out so much in me that it wasn't me alone. They singled out, but they knew what they were doing, because the results, I'm assuming based on what Mr. McGregor's speech said, Miss McLennan knew what she wanted for the students. So the teachers were there by design to bring out of the students. And we saw the result in all of those accolades that, you know, fell on the students them as they left the Meadowbrook, you know.
Exactly. And as you know, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah. So you say that you mentioned Spanish teacher. Miss Subaran was my Spanish teacher in first form.
Yeah.
And Mr. Scott, right? I and Mr. Bell Davis, right? And I later learned that all of these people, maybe not Mr. Scott, but
they were
Mr. Bell were past student. Yes, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I didn't know this until later on in life. And I think they acquitted themselves very, very well, particularly Mr. Bell Davis.
Yeah.
I actually, he made me fall in love with geography.
Yes, right? They purposely, and it was a design, Dave. It's just that we never know because we were young and innocent. But it clicked to me, like I said, when I heard Mr. McGregor said that Miss McLennan sought him out. Now, Mr. McGregor was like the best, but remember the teachers that were there before him, also physics, chemistry, all of those teachers that you just see them walking on the campus and you want to succeed in whatever subject that they were teaching, you know?
Right.
Yeah. If I may add one little bit to that, and so I wasn't gifted in the science like you brilliant people were. I think some of the teachers though recognized that talent did not always have to look in the science, you know, so teachers like Pat Williams, who brought out the literature and the arts, and
Yeah.
allowed you to develop
You mean
in a
Brutus you're
balanced
talking
way.
about, Tony?
Pat Williams?
It's Brutus you're talking about?
Yes,
Brutus, yeah man, Brutus, yeah man, Brutus.
Yes.
The great Brutus. So there were other teachers that made you feel like, okay, so you're not in physics, but guess what? You can write, you can be creative, you're a creative thinker, and it gave you a sense of belonging as well, even though you weren't necessarily in. So I think that Meadowbrook did a great job in balancing that. With guys like Dylan and McFarlane was a natural artist, you know, and he could go in and paint and carve and do great work, and it was equally respected. So there was a balancing that came out of this, that you didn't feel less than if you weren't in the science.
No, none at all. But even before Brutus, you know, Tony, that you might not have known, she was just a version of Dr. Morris, because Dr. Morris would if you were interested or not in language and literature, she will drive it into you. I'm just saying that it was there in our time too, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't
But
say drive it in
tradition of balancing it out, no matter what the subject was.
Yeah, she'll be able to nurture you and extract it.
Yes.
That's the one that taught us GP, Dave.
Yes.
Yes.
I found her so inspiring that I had to watch Falcon Crest the night before to sit at the back of the class and have something to chat about.
Oh Lord!
No,
Sarah.
I saw her teaching literature to the fifth formers, the Stony them that was preparing for PhD, right? And we did done pass already, so it never matter. But I saw her in action with them, and she completely different from us. We you know, sixth form, we think we know everything and whatever she was doing up there. But thankfully, I must say to her, when we got our A-level results for GP and literature, I got an A in both of them. So, and my writing skill has never been questioned anywhere.
You say that about her, Easton. I concur. Even though I didn't have the success you had, I had my challenges, and she actually tried to help me, and she was very helpful in encouraging me to read more and read broadly.
Yes.
You know, she would encourage me to, you know, go to the supermarket, pick up a magazine. You know, Time magazine in particular is what she used to advocate. Time magazine and Newsweek were the magazines of choice those days, and that's what I would do.
Still is.
You know,
and I have to mention, for me personally, and because I know everybody feels about this, so I have to mention Miss McLennan, because Miss McLennan, for me, and this was from first form when she didn't even teach me Spanish, but Miss McLennan took me under her wing that I don't think she did with no other student in her whole life at Meadowbrook. And so I ended up with a love for Spanish that I myself couldn't even explain, so much so that she pushed and pushed and pushed, that even when people at Meadowbrook didn't even know what was going on, I passed when we did our CXC. I was the only person that passed in Meadowbrook, right? Mr. McLennan arranged for me to go to the language training center when we were in sixth form to go and further my Spanish. So much so that when I got to UWI and we were doing Spanish language and literature, and we had to read those books and everything, it was like second nature. And I thank Miss McLennan for that, because she saw something that I didn't see, and she saw something that no other students saw in themselves, but she saw that in me, and she pushed that, you know?
Well, let me ask you something, though, and this go to you and Sarah, because Sarah said she didn't like Spanish, and neither
Nobody did.
No, but Easton love it. And
yes, I'm telling you, thanks to Miss McLennan. Well, Mrs. Nelson before, because she taught me in first form.
Well, it's not the teacher's Easton. Let me tell you this. She taught me too. Mrs. Nelson taught me too.
Yes.
And I'm sure only hear about my story in Spanish class.
We did.
me go Spanish class, and me have my pen. My pen will come and knew this. I like a magazine. When magazine, they have to work on a paper bag. And that me carry the classroom and the Spanish class in a first or second form. But she never reported me to Mr. Tab, and that's the nature of the teacher. But the question I ask is, Sarah, you went to prep school. You must have learned Spanish at prep school.
Yeah, I
And
think.
at Easton, you didn't go to prep school. Where you learned
No,
Spanish
I
from?
didn't learn it before. I never knew it
Right,
before.
so that's the point I'm making. But go ahead, Sarah. How come you didn't learn love language Spanish at all?
I didn't like it. The thing is, I spelling was a challenge for me, and I'm sitting down learning how to spell in someone else's language, and I never forget the thing. Before I went into my CXC English language exam, Mrs. Nelson said to me, "Sarah, watch your spelling." Never forgot that. And it was, second form, I hated Spanish. You know why? It was double session.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go home every day and cross off the Tuesdays on a calendar and think, oh my God, February, just so many more to get through. And I regret it now.
Yes, I hear you.
See, there you go, Miss McLennan. So
Well,
I have no
you
regrets.
guys are lucky.
I'm
You guys
fine.
are that Spanish teacher.
Yes, but it's not the teacher, it's the teacher.
It's a student.
Right,
student,
that's the point I'm making, yeah.
Teacher find a student that they know that they can mold. It is like that perfect harmony. And Miss McLennan never taught me when I was trying to develop that like for it. How she found out, I don't know, but then she also found out other things, I guess, about me. Maybe she was watching my every move because she pushed me in so many directions, and I never failed at any of the things that she pushed me in.
No, that is, you see, come back to the experiment again, what I talk about. And when you hear Vivian conversation, somebody knows something about every student at Meadowbrook. That's what Meadowbrook was. When you think they didn't know, you ask the same question, how they know. They know when people need help with eat.
Talk about us.
Exactly. Them know when the student need help with for breakfast or for lunch. Oral Shark came on this program and talks. Them used to get help with them eating at the time. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. And nobody knew at the school. Right?
Correct.
You need help with this. Them know these things. And when I hear Vivian conversation, they put it together and I say, yeah, man. It was an experiment.
Yeah, that's true.
I
experienced that with Miss McLennan and Dr. Morris in my sixth form years.
Mm-hmm. Right, they know things about you. I say, them know that. Right.
I mean, I share things with them. They were more welcoming. They were less the disciplinarians, and they were more like nurturers and
exactly. When it needed to be, I put it this way: at Meadowbrook, everybody light could have shine. Let your light shine, because that was the motto. You know, following nobody.
Yes, that is the key. They push you to make that light shine. I'm a testimony to that because I had many lights burning, and all of them, I think, others can say yeah or nay, was shining very bright, even outside of the school, but a lot of people wouldn't even have known it because Miss McLennan would push me into things like I ended up in Key Club. And Miss McLennan just called me in her office one day. I was in fifth form, and she said, the Kiwanis Club of Downtown Kingston has approached her, and they want to start by the Key Club at Meadowbrook. You're the president, go and start the club.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Empowerment. Jay, I kind of come to statement. Sorry to interrupt the flow here, but I would rephrase it slightly and not say it was an experiment. I would say that Miss McLennan provided an environment for her students to be more innovative and to try different things, her staff.
Yeah.
Because we were so small, there's a lot of things we could do that the larger, more institutional organizations probably couldn't. So it was always one, everybody said they were in close contact with the students, understood the students' lives and what was going on, but they were willing to try some innovative, different things and experiment with some things that I think really add to the quality of life for us.
Yeah, man, it was all about that. It was all about the experiment, too. As I tell you, when you hear the conversation, we know something about. But let me ask a question, though, and I have to ask this question to Easton and to Sarah and to Dave to a lesser extent. Because, in a sense, let me ask a question. Because Meadowbrook didn't have a reputation for sports at the school when I came there.
Right.
By the time when we
Right.
leave and when we won the first time in 1982, and you Easton, not necessarily a sports person, and Sarah definitely not a sports. I don't know how we follow the sports. How did that make you feel? What that meant to you
Well,
when Meadowbrook won the Sunlight Cup? When we start
I,
winning our sports? Go ahead, Sarah.
I mean, Margaret will tell you, cricket is
Cricket,
my
yeah.
first love and always will be. I'm pleased I can follow two cricket teams at the moment. If I had to follow the West Indies, I'd be depressed every day.
Yeah, don't bother talk
But
about that. We're not going
but
there.
when you won the first cricket, my cousin went to Calabar, and I saw him soon after you'd won, and he said, "You know, you only won because we dropped catches." Calabar, and his father turned around and said, "That's it. Drop catches, win matches. You lost. Take it
So you
well."
lost.
I can remember, I think I was in lower six and we were in the finals again. I can't remember who was bowling, and we were at Sabina Park watching, and I think we were sitting beside one of the teachers, and our bowler had given quite a few runs away. We weren't defending a large total. And he said we should take him off. We said, no, give him one more over. And he didn't let me down. The guy took about 2 wickets.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I guess the question for me, why has it not continued into the 90s, the noughties, and now? What is missing there within the sports department, or is sports no longer a thing for the students of the school?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have to try and answer, Sarah. But yeah, because I have been asking myself that question too. We peaked in 1986. That, and trust me, sports is an important thing. Because what the thing what sports does more than anything else is galvanize, especially team sports. Galvanize
Yes.
a school, because somebody knows somebody on the team, and it's not just the team players alone. It motivates the school to do a whole heap of other things because them start. Believe it or not, sports our run the money worldwide in terms of like at the college them here, at the football program bring the
Yes.
money in the school. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
No care how good them is academically, the football program are bringing the money. Right?
Mhm.
So there's a Meadowbrook provide a great blend at the time, Because it's not just one
Yeah.
or two time we win 5 or 6. That's why I start from there. You see what I'm saying to
Yes.
you? That's why I started from there in Eastern. So you tell me what it meant to you as an academic. You are a straight out academic. Not like Dave who flirted in the sports a little bit, and we are come to him after. You tell me your views on this Eastern.
Okay, so well, when we started Meadowbrook, nothing was going on sports wise, right? And you put in context where the one runner, Mayor,
Sally.
and
Yeah.
so that time we used to go to champs, and you just sit down and you have all of the big school them cheering, and we're just there. But I grew up in a Calabar house.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Calabar was just dominating everything.
Yeah, man.
So you're getting jeered by brothers and cousins, like what kind of school is you end up going, or they can't do nothing, blah, blah, blah. So I was never not inclined. I was never encouraged to go, because then I said, well, if me go become a part of this team now, and we fail, we're already set up for failure, because in my household, the expectation is that nothing is going to come good of you because you're at Meadowbrook. So whereas I might have been, because, I'm left-handed. So when I started out, I was good at cricket. But I don't know what the team going to come out to be like. And I'm doing this on behalf of trying to avoid the ridicule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I realized now, but not to say that I never followed or had no keen interest in none of the sports them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
On a side note, I was always at that court right next to the lawn tennis court there, because the view was always very attractive,
Yeah.
So, so that sport was always a like or love of mine.
You want
So
closer to the parking lot, right?
one right at the parking lot, right?
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah, man.
you happen to be walking by a little bit more frequently. So when I realized now that my my brothers weren't doing good academically, but they are ahead of me. I said, oh, now is my chance. So I can prove to them that something came out of Meadowbrook that none of them can voice down or ridicule now or anything. So that was my personal challenge, and then it manifested itself in whatever I did at Meadowbrook.
Yeah. So when we won, then did it make you feel any different as a when it started?
You mean any sports? Yeah, man, I was there. I was exuberant. The year when Meadowbrook won that is Walker Cup was it.
Yeah.
When we left Meadowbrook, I was at work at Scotiabank, and I left. I don't remember where we get the tie from, but I ended up at that match in my tie. It was Dunoon Park. They were playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up there at the stadium because I said, it's not missing me, you know? So it's not like I was never a part of it, never followed it, never enjoyed the success that they were getting and all of the stuff like that. It's just that I never ventured into it because of what I think if we failed, not Meadowbrook or myself, is the jeering I'm getting from all of these Calabar people that keep coming in and out of my house.
Yeah, man. Understand the Easton. But so Dave, you actually played with a couple of the members of the team who did very well on the Sunlight team and at football, Jano and Eddie. Yeah. You comment on this in terms of say, you went to Meadowbrook, who didn't have a sports tradition, and you comment on the question.
All right. So just before I answer that, I want to just address the Spanish conversation. So my second form year, I didn't have a Spanish teacher. Mrs. Nelson was on maternity leave for my second form year. I don't think she came back at all for my second form year. So Spanish, I lost interest in Spanish after that. So Mr. Subadan did a good job, Miss Subadan. And after that, it was a total chaos for me where Spanish was concerned. So whereas Easton had a good thing with Spanish and Sarah just didn't like Spanish, that's what did it in for me when Mrs. Nelson didn't show up for class because she had to take care of her child. So now to answer your question, for Sunlight, you're talking about the Sunlight or Sunlight and the Walker Cup.
Everything, man. That's a sports tradition change.
Oh,
while
okay.
we're at school, I think about it, It's while all on at school. Meadowbrook was at school.
Yeah, so I don't have any strong emotions where all that was concerned, only for the Walker Cup team. And that's because I train more with those guys. For me, and cricket, it is a love-hate relationship in that when I used to play with two of my buddies from that used to attend Wilma's boys' school, the Sutherlands.
I know them. Wayne
and Martin Sutherland. Yeah, they lived across the street from me. And I remember one even we're playing over at Bottom Field by the concrete pitch down there, and it was bad light, and Wayne bowl a full toss, and of course, me being the lesser guy, glad for the full toss because you can lick a big shot. Of course, I lick and miss, swing and miss, and the ball licked me straight upon my nose.
That then you love it, I hear you.
Yeah, I actually started a fear of that ball. It started a fear of the ball, which is why I said to you in our conversation before this interview, when Mr. Here asked me to train with the Colts team, I think I went to one training session or two, and I said no, I'm gonna do it again because Clive was my classmate. I mean, no, Clive could have bowled fast.
Quick, right?
Clive was miserable. Right? I'm gonna say if anyone faster than Clive, you don't want to face him. Come and even want to face Clive. Right? Because I get to know cricket ball liquor I'm gonna say I don't want no more. And it's in a sense it's a tragedy because I was a semi-decent cricket player.
Yeah, but
I prefer to play the game. I prefer to play the game rather than to watch the game or listen to the game like Sarah. Sarah loves to watch and listen to cricket.
Yeah.
Ever since I know her. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about Easton, but I know Sarah till this day is a massive cricket fan, as she just said. Right?
Sarah used to have a radio. Sarah, did you used to have your radio in high school?
Yeah.
Say again?
Yeah.
I seem to remember Sarah with her radio at one point.
Listening.
Yeah, man.
Sarah was the rumbar person who wasn't in the rumbar
And
in
you have to,
Meadowbrook.
and
I
you have
was
to
walking
explain to
out
the
the
young
transit
people,
radio.
you know, what a transistor radio is, you know.
Yeah,
A small
Yeah.
radio can hide.
Exactly, Sarah. I had one
Yeah.
too.
exactly.
In my bag, and you have to me lay up on this, pretend me I listen, I'll sleep or something, but I'm a radio, me I listen. I needed to hear the score, ball by ball. I was like you, Sarah, don't
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah, but so is it that we don't have the right coaches anymore, or what?
Let me venture and think what I think happened, Sarah. After, I think it's a complete thing. After 1986, Miss McLennan left, in my mind,
Yes.
unceremoniously. I don't know. I just from outside me I look on. Miss McLennan left without
She was sick, you know.
Yeah, so I hear, but she left without a ceremony. That's what I mean by that. Miss McLennan was
Oh.
never given the accolade she deserved. That's what I
No.
mean. That's what I mean. Sick or not, and maybe she reached retirement age. But I said we never big up Spanner, right? Mr. Year left the same way. And I don't know why
Even
they
Owen
leave.
too.
Same way.
Even Mr. Owen too.
Right. But so my point is, Sarah, somewhere in at that time, at the peak of when the experiment they start produce results, I was producing results, it looked like, and this is just a guess from me, after I talked to Vivian, I realized it looked like the culture from the
Changed.
top changed. Right, the culture of the experiment changed. And say the
It's
word,
drastic.
yes, changed drastically. The world might have come and say, all right, enough of this experiment, I know. I get result, I know. I'm going to go back to strictness and stop with the experiment. This is just my opinion, you know. I don't know what
I think one of the differences is that Miss McLennan worked her way up to the top, and Meadowbrook was her life.
Mhm.
And I think when you have headmistresses like that, they will fight for everything for the school, or headmasters will fight for everything.
Yes, right. That's the first thing. And more important thing, we recruit people like her. Recruit teachers who come to the school who love the students like she.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think about the student, Miss Nevins, you know, she has been here and fair conversation will come out. And we hear the relationship we have with Miss McLennan. Miss McLennan was our mother.
Mhm.
So I'm saying the love what they had for the school. I'm telling you, and Miss McLennan recruited people like that. So I'm saying, you know, with the loss of her, I think the culture changed. I don't know if it was deliberate. I don't know if it was. I don't.
It was diluted for sure because Dr. Morris and Mrs. Headlam actually did a decent job, I think, in carrying forward some of those things that the results of the experimentation from 1978 coming up.
From the beginning of the school, East Farm.
Well, from beginning of the school.
From 1958. It's like when we started here, the experiment just kept expanding. And I think it reached its peak. All the way, we're part of the peak of the experiment. We'll put it that way there.
Mhm.
From in the 80s, I think the 80s was at the peak of the experiment. You realize the result of the experiment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, it wasn't the experiment. And I don't know. All I can think when I say, you're right, Sarah, the coach, Mr. Euro was an instrumental. We talk about him over and over.
Yeah, man.
But again, he was chosen. It's not like, say, these people, you don't find them people every day. You see what I'm saying? All the teachers, the staff, the administrative staff, the auxiliary staff, there was a culture in Meadowbrook where everybody was us. I love it. It's like you're at home, man. It's like a home away from home, man. That was the experiment.
But it was a culture supported by tenureship where the people stayed for decades, right?
The bought into the
You typically don't have that anymore, and we were benefiting from the lessons learned, that institutional knowledge. And you're right. I think it's the breaking away from that institutional knowledge where people came in and it was just a job. They didn't have the same amount of commitment. So that helped to explain a lot in why we fell apart because we lost so much of that.
Let me say something again on a personal note. Hitchcock, who started this conversation with me, and because he have to do other things, but he might come up back, him tell me, say, Miss McLennan look on him and tell him, say, boy. Because in my mind, I think Miss McLennan was grooming somebody like him to take over as sports master and ultimately maybe a big time administrator at the school. Because she looked on him one day and I said, but Hitchcock, some people here are for the job. You are Meadowbrook.
Yes.
It's a message to you. So most of the people, the teachers, Miss McLennan was grooming teachers. And I say young teachers. Because Hitchcock just leave school, you know. Just leave high school and she are grooming to say, and she say, she put in her mind and say, you are Meadowbrook. And think about what that means, when you get groomed and I say, and you never realize it, you feel a certain pride, and you come in, and you're nurturing thing, and I'm saying, and Hitchcock unfortunately had to leave and go JC, and then you see the result of JC, right? Him put JC back on the map in the 2000, when he came back from foreign and go back at JC. So I'm saying to you, so somewhere, as I say, these are speculations on my part, I have no proof or nothing at all, but I say somewhere along the line.
No, but I think teaching has gotten harder. I mean, I see it here in the UK. You couldn't pay me to be a teacher. And you have to want to do it, and you have to have a love of it.
Yeah.
And that's what the teachers that we had fortunately had that.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, the other ingredient that seems to be common across generations is that the teachers have to have a certain social skill,
right,
to adapt to whatever it is that they are facing these days, or whenever it was in our day. Those teachers that we had were teachers I would consider exceptional social skills, to deal with challenging students.
I think that Dave is the key word to say. The teachers were chosen for the social skills, and then I think that's what made Meadowbrook special. That is that they were chosen.
Not just a degree, they were chosen for something beyond that. So the interview process would have been deeper.
Yeah, man, right, exactly.
So and in keeping with the experimentation that you mentioned, I think, because I didn't look at it the way you looked at it, Prince, but I think that the whole system that we went through of the evening shift and the morning shift and the 7 ABC and all them things there, and MHS and all those things serve us as well as students to make us better rounded people, right? Because I know for one, I might have mentioned it in the beginning, I know for one I was an introvert, right? And by the time I leave Meadowbrook, I was much less so of an introvert, right?
But
and the teachers, the principals, Dr. Morris and Miss McLennan were the ones, particularly Dr. Morris, were the ones who kind of like teased me out of my shell when I was in fifth and sixth form. They're the ones.
Let me just say a little bit of what Vivian said. And this is my talk about from Reverend Henry Ward. Henry Ward vision for the school, Remember Meadowbrook came about in 1958. We were preparing for independence. Was to prepare a school to create great Jamaicans who can run the country. Meadowbrook was the experiment. In a free mind, he wanted to create great citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Not just great cricketers, footballers, or academicians, but great citizens who can run the place. That was his vision. That's why I'm expanding. And you think about Meadowbrook, that's why the shift system came in, expanded, and it's not one class of people come on Meadowbrook. Everybody come on here and talk about that.
But John, remember the shift system was a movement, was a national movement,
exactly.
Because all the high school had it, Calabar had shift systems too during that era.
Yeah. But I'm saying the experiment of Meadowbrook, because of the vision of the founder, was to mix everybody up. And it's like, and just like you say, Easton and Margaret in a 10-5, when you go there and then, but you're not mixing everybody.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You're not mixing everybody, from uptown, downtown, crosstown. Yeah. It never matter. Once you come and Meadowbrook, you were one.
It didn't matter, no.
That's the point I'm making. And see, 40 years later, we can have this conversation and everybody can come and have the conversation. And there's something special about Meadowbrook I feel to them. And I couldn't put my finger on it till I talk to Vivian and I say, oh, no, I see it. And because I hear the conversation, I can't talk about it the way I'm talking to them about it. No, I see the vision of what them they're talking about. It wasn't an accident, man. It was an accident. And then, for some reason along the way, in the 1980s, that vision may have changed. That vision may have changed.
They probably lost sight of the original goal of the school, but Miss McLennan was there from the beginning, so she knew what it was. As they said, she knew what the assignment was, and she executed on it,
Right, and then sometimes with most of them things, like, you don't prepare you're a parent. I just don't, because we call it too in the business, a transition plan.
Yeah. The continuity wasn't there.
Yeah. Because we had something that was great, And it just like when
It,
the
it wasn't
Succession
treated like a
plan.
business. It wasn't
succession
treated
plan,
like a
thank you.
business.
Thank you, Miss Suba.
Succession plan.
Succession
Yeah.
plan,
Succession plan.
exactly. That wasn't. So it's like we're in 40 years later, now if I think and I said, just like the question Sarah asked. Because that's what I asked myself.
But Sarah bring up a good point in Angela. It is extremely difficult to keep people in academia and a high school level as a career point of view. And there's so many options, so much change in Jamaica from an economic point of view. But you have to love the work for anybody who
Yeah.
stick that up, they love student, they love the work. And we couldn't selfishly from an institutional point of view expect people to be committed and then we can't pay them bills and put food on them table. So much change as well externally.
No, man, I know you talk
True.
about teaching, Tony. I taught it for 2 years, and the reason why I didn't teach, maybe I never loved it enough, or I wasn't inspired enough. So I'm saying to you, so I know what you talk about. Teaching is a tough job.
It is
So,
So you have to respect the teachers, them, and you have to call them out. And
yeah, man.
you
You have to
follow
bless them up,
yeah,
man.
I think
exactly.
also
Yeah.
one of the strong points was, you think of how many ex-students returned as teachers. They might not have stayed long,
That's the point.
but they came back
That's
to
exactly
to
it.
give
Yeah.
something back.
Yeah.
Exactly. Miss Subadan,
Yeah.
Miss Isabel Nevis, Miss
No,
Williams.
no.
Melody Russell,
Yes,
And Easton as well.
exactly.
Easton.
Exactly. Vivian same was teaching geography at the time. He was going to teach geography. That's another thing. Let me ask about that as I mentioned geography. Because Dave said in favor subject and Sarah said, what was it about geography, Sarah? And started you first. Who were the teachers who inspired you to love geography so much?
It started in first form. I think it was, who was it? Miss Lamard. Does that ring a bell,
Yes,
Margaret?
Miss Lamar was the geography teacher.
And then right up to fourth and sixth form, we had Miss Jones and Mrs. McCullough. It was just, it was easy for me. I just fell in love with it, and I've had a career related to geography. I've worked in physical planning, regeneration, and now I do health and planning. So it was just different places. It taught me how to write essays, a bit like Easton. No one questions how I write. Yeah, it made me well-rounded, and at university too. For anyone who's passed through the geography department of UWI in the 80s, it was a unique place. Each of the lecturers were unique in their different ways. Yeah, it was just inspiring for me.
And it was you, Dave, who talk about your love for geography as well?
Yeah, I didn't carry through with geography like those guys. Mr. Bell Nevis was the one, was instrumental in my, loving geography. Plus some career choices that I wanted to make later on. I knew that I had to do geography, or I had to know it well, how to read maps and understand contour lines and all that kind of stuff. So the foundation in geography for me came from him, right? And my desire to embrace that as a part of a pre-thought or career path that I wanted to take. So yeah, it was. I love geography, but I didn't get to. I didn't get to do it through fourth and fifth form.
Well, I also this is the first time I ever talk about. I also had a love for geography. I was inspired by a teacher named Miss Richards. I don't know if you remember her, right? And it wasn't, in a sense, I'd come back to the nurturing thing again, because I was a troublemaker at school in terms of with my mouth, right? That's why I'm out them thing I know me like talk. I'm Miss Richards, but I did love geography, but I also love challenge the teacher. So Miss Richards was there one day talking about warm front and cold front. And I don't have to say no more. You know where that comes at? I got taken.
That was it, yes.
Right, but guess what? All she did, she look around and she blush and I say, nothing to Mr. Top. This boy, I take him out of, but that's something. The teachers were chosen to facilitate students like me who are going to run off him out and push the edges. That's the thing. That's the word Vivian used, though. Meadowbrook allow you to push the edge where, boy.
Yes.
It's something to you. We could experiment and take a chance.
Explore the limits.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I mean, Miss Barbara talk about our famous biology class where she teach a student about sexually transmitted disease. Just imagine how important that class is,
Yeah.
It's something to you.
Yeah, and I would heard that teacher.
And
I
the
can
teacher, yeah. third hand. Yes.
You can't
Yes.
leave out that part, Easton. Exactly. This is not
Yes.
any biology teacher at all. This is somebody with who don't want to teach biology. That's the person you want to go watch. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
For any young teenage boy,
one endowed with great ability.
Exactly. So we can through the conversation here, can see the experiment unfold. Once you start it more the way, and I said, right, yes, and yes, because Miss Barber took it up on her head for us go try the experiment.
Mm-hmm.
It comes in because they were. That's what I think the teachers were chosen.
Well, it's true because Mr. Thorpe, in your interview with Mrs. Nelson, she said Mr. Thorpe called her when she was back in Canada.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. When they pick them on Meadowbrook, man, that's a job them I give them, man. They select certain people for say, boy, them go fit in at the mold or what them want. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I just want to know your love where they come from. But so Sarah, let me start with you because believe it or not, I'm looking for my people, 2 questions I ask you, I went there talk
really?
for about 90 minutes already, so right. But these are all them conversations that flow. Who are some of the teachers who inspired you, Sarah? Some of the students you remember who inspired you throughout the days at Meadowbrook?
Gosh, teachers. You mentioned Miss Nevins for maths. The geography teachers. I remember we had in history. It was Mrs. Pottinger, and boy, Saffron gave her a warm time. One time she took off her shoes, and next thing Saffron take it under the desk and it down the back of the classroom.
Yeah, because Saffron was like that. Yeah.
And we all have to keep a straight face. Who else? Mr. McGregor. How could I forget?
Mm-hmm.
He used an expression when he first came into the classroom, which I use with staff now, and it was, "Don't tell me you don't understand, because you must understand something. Tell me what part you don't understand."
Yeah.
So I think each teacher was unique in its way. You learned something from each of them, that not necessarily just in the classroom. But it's interesting when you say that the teachers had more of an insight into some students that had perhaps difficult home lives that no one knew about, but they did. And I think that was what set it aside in that period.
And before I come to you, Easton, I just want to mention something about Mr. McGregor. Because Mr. McGregor should be on this program already, a couple of times. But for want of him, we soon get him on, right? And when I spoke to him, I know Rory good, because that's what I call him, Rory. Because he was at school when him started there from, I think, 78 he started in Meadowbrook, the same year he started, right? And Rory, when I said him, I'm going to do this, and I said, Jelly, yeah, you want to get the voice of the forgotten man of Meadowbrook. And trust me, I'm going to say this to the trio, Sarah, Easton, and Dave, this conversation epitomizes in my mind. Because I had no idea when I started this. Because you're right, Easton, it was a bias when I started about the sports thing. But I had no idea anybody else would have interested to come join the conversation. And this, Rory, I love this conversation because it epitomizes the fact that only come a chance to come express yourself and talk about on a story. And I'm grateful that you come on. And Dave, thank you for making this happen. Thank you for being inspired for call Wayne and make this happen. Because, as I said, sometimes I just a call or a text. So,
Yeah.
But I just had to say that and I make a talk about Rory and the fact that I'm glad only here for telling the conversation. Because it inspired other people and I said, no. Another sports jelly and the one Tony I talk about is everything else. It's about Meadowbrook. And the experiment with Meadowbrook was the great experiment where it was and can be again. That's the next thing we want to talk about. But go ahead, Easton. What some of the teachers you talk about McLean already and the student them were inspired during your time at Meadowbrook?
All right, so right off coming in, like Dave said, later on, we found out the names of our elders who were in 5th and 6th form at the time. You look on them; these were like, women and young women and young men. But I remembered Paulette Samuels because she was in 6th form when I came, and her brother Andrew Keane. You see these people walking around the campus and with such grace and dignity, and you want to emulate them because you don't know them, but what they appear to be is the good of what you think you can be, you know? Later on, remember, you was ahead of us too, you know, so you're an inspiration. You may not know it because it's the unknown, but we're looking on and you say, well, sixth form is the level to attain. So, you know, we're a sixth form uniform, you want to attain that too.
Yeah.
Later on, Andrea Wright, Cavell Creighton, Carol Francis.
And she went on to TVJ.
Yes, and I want to let you know that Carol Francis was the one who led me into the same field that she was in, and I ended up at Karamak at UA because of her. And because while she was at Meadowbrook, you know, as you go in the school, you become friends with people. And she was the one, you know, I used to be like, why are you doing history in A-level? Why? Because you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And she says, well, this is what I want to do, become a journalist. So when she started at UA, I used to leave after Meadowbrook, go up UA, go in the studio with her and so on. So a great influence there, you know. Among other people who were there, like I said, not just in sixth form alone, but how you see these people portray themselves, you know. The teachers now who had first impression for me, Miss Lysette, who was our art teacher, and she was very warm and welcoming. Miss Nevins was our maths teacher, and you just wanted to learn because she taught with such dedication. Other teachers now, as we came along, geography, Miss McCullough, and geography Jones, Miss Jones, even though I didn't do geography in sixth form like Sarah, but we became friends because they were so warm and welcoming. You could go sit down in her office, you know. Miss Jones was the one who said to me, you're going to do the geography in CXC and you're going to pass it. And she taught so well that one of the questions was you were supposed to draw a Caribbean capital city and do the layout. And I could close my eyes and I did downtown with all of the street, them going up and down the 7 natural harbor in the world based on how she taught me. And she gave me that love for it. And I did pass the geography, but it wasn't that I was looking to go anywhere with it. But as a teacher, she influenced me to go that route, you know. Mr. McGregor, again, I was no math champion, but he made me want to do maths, you know, when I rebelled because everybody else in my class was rebelling against maths. And I know Margaret is on the phone, so she can attest to it. It's not a job, but nobody like maths class.
Easton, you know that you must not use Margaret and maths in the same sentence.
No.
You know better than that.
So the company that I was among, nobody wanted to do maths. And Mr. McGregor sent me to Miss McLennan office and said to me, go to Miss McLennan office and tell her why you don't want to do the maths. And by the time I go into Miss McLennan office, and he came after, and I remember he said to me, you're a member of, but not a part of. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you're a member of the class, but you're not a part of what they want or don't want to be. And that thing has stood with me forever. How can you be in a class, but you're not a part of it? And he said, you're a member of it, but you're not a part of it. So I had to fight through with the maths. And here I am today. It has helped me, you know. So he was a big inspiration too, you know. But my greatest inspiration and you know, somebody who fought for me my whole life at Meadowbrook was Miss McLennan. And I tell you the story when we were supposed to go sixth form, because I was the only student who did the Spanish, and I wanted to do Spanish in sixth form. And they said that the Ministry of Education not going to pay for one teacher to teach one person. And so my mother says, well, you're going to Calabar then, because that was what they wanted from first form. I went enrolled in Calabar. One day I'm at Calabar, and Miss McLennan drove from Meadowbrook down to Calabar, and she said, nope, I will teach you A-level Spanish.
Wow.
Wow.
And so I was in her office, And this is how I told you before that she arranged for me to go to the language training center afterwards so that I could learn it. It was something that all of these Spanish countries who have diplomats in Jamaica, either the wife or husband, they taught there. So it has a lab and everything, but you're learning advanced Spanish, you know? And she made all of that for me when the demands, she couldn't meet the demand of just teaching me alone, right? When I left Meadowbrook and went to UWI, she asked me to come back. So I went back to Meadowbrook and I taught for a year there in Spanish. And so that would be my forever inspiration. I mean, you know, everybody thinks I was her pet, but she was just my inspiration and someone who fought for me, you know?
Trust me, Dave. Sorry, it's just me, Easton. And Dave, before you trip in on the question, that story, Easton, is worth the price of admission. I'm writing down the clip, the minutes, because I'm going to clip that story when your podcast will come out, and it have to play over and over. Because trust me, when Miss McLennan did this alone,
Yes.
it epitomizes in my mind what Meadowbrook was at the time.
Who she is. Yeah.
You see me, I said to you, the principal go out her way for drive come. I know you want to do that for. She do it for tech reg, for go work. Get it. You see me, I said to you, and would, I know she alone do it.
She looks for Freddie. She looks for Freddie too.
Repeat that, Tony.
She did it for Freddie too. She called Minister of Education for Freddie.
Exactly.
It just shows the woman that she was, how committed she was. It wasn't just a job. She was caring about the students, man.
Beyond that job, yes.
No, man, that's exactly my point, man. Exactly my point. So you, Dave, the same question for you. Hopefully I remember the question, or you remember the question. I'm looking back and say, who are some of the teachers and some of the students who may inspire you?
Well, I'd say my notable memories are people who, you know, help to either form a personality or help to, you know, help me in my development from the academic side. I mentioned two of them, Mr. Bill Davis, Miss Subadan, right?
And what is our first name? Remember our first name?
Norma.
Claudette. Yes.
No, Norma.
Norma
Subadan.
Norma was Wigan. Mr. Wigan was Norma.
Yeah, I think it's Claudette is the right name. Which name? The Claudette Subadan. Yes.
Well, I think it's say Norma up on Facebook, but hey. So those two, Mr. Francis, our science teacher in third form, one comment that he made in dictated notes to us in third form, which I'd never forget. He said, "Birds have beaks but no teeth," and he emphasized it. He said it more than once, you know. But that, you know, he was like one of those teachers, like the chosen. You know, he was very welcoming to the students, very patient. So he was one of the teachers that I remember in those middle years. Miss Parks, my form teacher. You had Mrs. Laidlaw. You had also later on you had Mr. Gooden, Mr. Lawson, Mr. McGregor, to a lesser extent because he didn't teach me maths until he didn't teach me math at all. It was further math that I did with Mr. McGregor, but I kind of fell off the wagon with that one. And Mr. Beckford.
Yeah, chemistry.
Mr. Hare, yeah. Mr. Hare from the PE side. Dr. Morris, Mrs. Headlam, and Miss McLennan. Other teachers too, like even though they didn't teach me, was teacher like Miss McCullough and Miss Jones. You know, students, you had in terms of memory, vivid memories of them, whether it's, you know, over time or just a one-time thing. Devon, Vivian, Janice Beecher. You had Gary Colton, Lurch, Michael Gray, Andrea Markland, Andrea Powell, Cheryl Hyatt, Carol Francis, to name a few, Grace Robinson and her sister, who is now a big thing in Canada in the theatrical arena.
Karen Robinson.
Karen Robinson, right? Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, and the guys that I went to was in class with, particularly in sixth form, right? And Clive and Chris, like I said before, Garfield Campbell, a whole bunch of people, Michelle Tapper, all the Andreas that were in my class. 'Cause in my class, I had like about 3 Andreas: Andrea Goldburn, Andrea M. and R. Smith, right, and Beverly. All my classmates in that time, coming up from first form up to third form in particular, were all of the people who helped to make me
To inspire you.
the person.
Yeah.
And Sarah, of course, this is the after school stuff with Sarah.
And Jelly, don't give himself much credit, but on the interform level, even though he was a grade ahead of me, and the terrible on the football as well, kind of sports.
So do you think?
Yeah, man, you held your own quite well, man.
He might underrate himself, Tony, like some people.
Underrate himself, man. He held his own quite well.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave.
All right, here's another joke. Here's a joke on myself now. So in second form, now to bring up the football thing, we were playing football on top field, and of course, top field grass never used to cut frequently. Grass used to grow a little higher than normal. But I remember, I think I did just learn slide tackle, and Clive them. You know where it's going, right? You know where it goes.
No, I don't know, but I can't imagine. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
So after the game, man, I said, boy, Dave was coming and slide tackle me and thing. I said, boy, I'll see his grass a fly up into the air. I call it grass cutter.
So,
That's the name I got in second form.
Yeah.
Grass cutter.
But let me ask
you. I'm sorry, and I forgot. Bridget Hosang, Diane Frankson.
Yeah.
Or 2 others.
Okay, nice. Yeah. I want you to call up all the people them name, man, because I want them to hear this conversation. I want to come join the conversation because everybody's story and everybody remember different, as Easton has proven with us over and over again with other people. But Easton tonight, your story about Miss McLennan, a drive come to Calabar.
Yes.
Trust me. That, as I said, that worth the price of admission for this conversation. If it's that alone we're going to talk about tonight, we could have done the conversation now. But trust me, that alone. I'm telling you. But let me ask you something as well. All three now, I think when I mentioned we're members of the school challenge team. Right?
Yes, same time.
I want to know from Uno, three now, and starting with you, Sarah. Most, as I said, starting with most of these questions is,
There was the captain.
Why was it Meadowbrook never transitioned to become a championship team in the school challenge? Because it wasn't a lack of talent. Could not be. Tell me what happened this now.
I think the thing is, when you're training a team, you have to start from any team, any whether it be cricket, football, track and field. When they come into school, you have to start in first form. We start too late. So I got involved when I was in fifth form, and it was Michael Gray, Bobble Blake, and I think Tony Abrams were training us, and Michael had a love for Meadowbrook, and he gave up his free time. Yeah, he gave up his free time to train the squad. And I can't remember, Miss McLennan called us in and said, who we playing? George's. Boy, you could have seen her face drop. Well, that night we beat George's by 1 point. I got home to hear that Miss McLennan had called my house wanting to speak to me.
Was it first round match?
Yeah, the first match I ever played was against St. George's, and we won by 1 point.
And the school challenge come on TV. Does it still do that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
A big now in Jamaica.
And the next morning,
yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Next morning, she called General Assembly on a Wednesday morning, and I'm thinking, why is it? And it's like, oh my God, the invincible team last night beat George's Let's have them come up on stage, and if the earth could swallow me up, it couldn't do it quick enough. And two of the members weren't there, and it was myself and Nicholas Bono went up, and I thought, oh my God, get me down here quick. But I think again, I think finding when we went to sixth form, it was finding a teacher who wanted to do it.
Yeah.
The first year we had Mr. Nairn in sixth form, and he was keen. Then he left the following year, and we had another teacher. I can't remember his name. But I think if you want to build a quiz team has to be more than like 8 people, because what happens if somebody's sick on the night or something like that?
Yeah.
You have to start from first form, and you need to, and that's probably where we go wrong.
No, it's
some structure to it as well.
Before you come in on this Easton, because Sarah bring up 2 very valuable points, right? The first was beginning from early and having a coach. The 2 points them, because guess what? We had that in a cricket. We had a coach, and go to where I said, Dave, we had a structure because we had a coach. And guess what? Tony can attest to this. Everybody have played cricket, some form of cricket from first form. So by the time that team won Walker Cup in 86, Easton and Dave, that team was playing together from first form because that was the system in place. And a lot of people don't realize, the value of coaching, and them underestimate and underrate it, Because sometimes, a simpler thing, as I can use one to me earlier with my computer. You can't spend the whole day try to learn how to do it, or you get a coach and him show you how to do it, And you think you save money by learning yourself, And the coach are going to show you and walk you through. You spend the money. The money you're going to save, the opportunity cost of spending the money upon the coach is far greater than the loss of trying doing it for yourself. And the importance of a coach, Sarah, may I tell you. Very important point. Yeah. Not just a team sport alone in a life. You have to something personally. Yeah. You get a personal coach, you want to lose weight, or you want to get better at a particular skill, and you find a coach who know what to do. The opportunity cost you going to save tons of time, and time are really money. Because that's where we can make only for money in an infinite amount, But the amount of time we have lived on this earth is finite.
Yes.
And that's what coaching does. It buy you back your time. Right? So you have to so it's a very valuable point, Sarah. I your insight, but I want to hear your comment, Easton. Why you think we did not transition to say why a big time school challenge team, in your opinion?
Well, I think I agree with what Sarah is saying. Based on our experience, the talent, it wasn't for a short of talent, right? Again, my disclaimer, I don't even know how I ended up on the team, but it was more of the focus wasn't so much there until you realize that you're investing so much time into it that you now have to make it be worth your while. And we did put in a lot of time because, countless hours we stayed after school to train. But we don't have no leadership. Like Sarah said, Mr. Nairn helped us. The guy who came after, I think he was a biology teacher or something like Mr. War or something, but
I can't remember his first name, John. He just come from university and was going on to do dentistry, I think, or be a doctor.
Right.
So this was like a gap year for him.
Correct. And he was just thrown into this thing, and he was a George's guy student, so Meadowbrook never, the push wasn't there.
Him not buying television, no. Right.
And so as far as, we pretty much had to formulate our own questions. We had to be begging people to practice with us because how do we know we can compete with a team if we don't have an opposing team? Mm-hmm. So we don't have a squad big enough that we can split ourselves in 2. Equipment. We had to create our own buzzer, me, Sarah, Dave.
I think it was between Mr. Lawson and Mr. McGregor.
And we bought the stuff.
Building that stuff for us.
And build that buzzer, so we were kind of out there on our own fighting to make a team to represent a school who otherwise didn't even know what we were doing, But if, like Sarah said, you win that match, which we did have that one match when all four of us, me, Dave, and Sarah, we won that match. Or was it Craig? I don't remember now.
No, we didn't win. Our team didn't win, including Dave. We came close.
Close.
I
No,
think we
what I
lost
mean is
by a
you
point or
in the
two.
first match on TV. Now they want you in Assembly Hall, you know? Or if you lose, you're the scorn of the school, but nobody knows the sacrifice that goes behind it. Sarah, Dave, and myself are all started Meadowbrook together, went all the way up to 5th form and 6th form together. We know each other in passing, but now we have to create a dynamic as a team. And so, like you said, that is where a coaching thing comes in. And if we were practicing from even, let's say, 3rd form, we know our own nuances. We know what our weaknesses are, maybe but we don't know because it's when school starts or maybe the summer before we start practicing. But, we all have other things going on, subjects that we're doing and so forth, So there's no foundation there, or there was no real foundation there for us, but it's not for lack of the knowledge and the talent.
It's not the ability.
No, we had more than the ability,
You mentioned, yeah, go ahead, finish up, sorry.
And we had more than the ability, and we had the willingness. For me, I felt, even though I was on the team, and I've mentioned this today before, I felt a little bit out of place, one, because these are 10-1, 10-2, 11-1, 11-2 people. I'm in 11-5. Mm-hmm. When we get to 6th form, I'm doing history, literature, and economics. They're all doing the sciences. Mm-hmm. So I still feel like I'm in the team, I'm on the team, but I feel like I'm different from them. Not from them.
It's your difference in your subject matter expertise that give you value there, because you're so different.
I never saw Easton as lesser than me at all.
Not coming from them. What I'm saying is because we don't practice that long enough, right? And I can say this with all frankness, not Sarah and not Dave here on the phone, but I didn't know the other Dave. And we were all from 1st form. I just did not know him. So, but 4 of us are on a team. I know I'm not saying it in a bad way, but it goes back to what you said, the coaching. I didn't know him, and we were on the team 2 years in a row, but I didn't know him,
And that is where the point that Sarah bring up earlier, it's like from 1st farm. And I went mention this, I mentioned something in Easton, which is very important, I'm not going to make it slip, I say, when you lose, you feel like, say, at the scan of the school. You see when we play sports, it doesn't matter if we lose, because guess what? The comradeship we have amongst ourselves, because we play together from 1st farm.
Right.
It never matter at all. Win, lose, or draw. Because we know we are competing and get better and better. So if we don't have a system like that, we know, say, in a 6th form now, and you know this man, not because I'm in a science class, I'm going to put the difference. Right. Him have the science and you have the arts, because that's the only difference. Him no more gifted than you, him no brighter than you, him have a different competent skill than you.
Right.
You follow me, I said to you, but them never put it away there at school, them have put it in a way where, them, and God bless them, because them never even realize,
we never know.
Right.
Yeah.
But me, I said that was in place, and you are trained from 1st farm, and you have a squad. So by the time when you reach school challenge age, man, the 1st farm will have ambition to say, can you not train the 1st farm of them? Because that's what that would wait for the sunlight. The youth that are coming on with them will be a part of our team. You follow me? I said to you.
But Jelly, but here's the thing what you're saying, and what Sarah saying, what you all say is valid enough, but in our experience, right, coming up from 1st farm, I remember 1st farm, I'm looking at cadet drills. I'm saying, nah, going to know cadet because they make man the push up and I count 1 every time for every push up them do. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why? Because I never do it properly. I say, I know that. I even like push up. Right? So, my point is that you come up from 1st farm and stuff, but the focus is in our formative years in at Meadowbrook, right? Wasn't about the latter year stuff. I even think maybe when we were in 1st farm, anybody was necessarily thinking about school challenge quiz from a Meadowbrook perspective to the extent that Sarah, Easton, and myself and Dave and Lurch and them guys enjoyed
Right.
in our sixth form years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cadet force, football, cricket, and I think we used to play hockey at one stage and one or two other things, track and field,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But there was no structure to carry it. It was that thing for that time at that stage of your school tenure,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But
So yeah,
what you were saying, though, in the Prince, remember when you guys play football or cricket, right? You're looking at a big squad, 15, maybe 15 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
right.
The four of us on the team, and we don't have no sub, we don't have nobody else.
No, right.
So
Right.
Yeah,
that's four of
I
you,
think
right?
I
Go
think
ahead, Sarah.
looking back, and I hope it's changed, is that you have all the extracurricular activity that the school offers, and you should have students like-minded. Some of the sixth formers come to the first form and say, "Listen, we're doing school challenge quiz. Do you want to come and try out?"
Right.
You have to make it invite. I mean, I didn't go looking for it; it came looking for me.
Right.
I think Michael Blair called me and said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Oh, okay." But
Right.
I think you lose people that, as Easton and Dave has said, is time, because you're learning material that you're not used to learning, and you're under pressure. I mean, I can remember we lost one match, and this first former came up to me and said, "You couldn't do better on the night."
Yes. That's why I said you become the scoring of the
No,
school when
but
you
guess
lose.
what? Guess what? It's if we have a first farm school challenge competition or a whole school challenge competition, he would not ask that question now. Because he would have want to make the team. He would have vision to make a team, but that never exists at all. Because
Never did.
right.
But now I can tell you now, because I started, reaching out to the quiz team, because I realized that, like you were saying, sports brings the draw because sports can bring the money. So I said, because I felt like, we were the underdogs at school. We represented the school, but we were like lesser than the cricket team and all of them people.
We represent the nerds.
We were right. So I reached out to them and I said, how can I help them? And as luck would have it, I happened to have been in Jamaica in December. And I went because they said they wanted a TV, right? So I had the opportunity to go and meet with some of the team members, and I was speaking with them. And the same way I felt when I was at Meadowbrook on the quiz team, the same way they feel now. And I said to them, the last thing I remember saying to them is, if you can find any consolation in me, who I am today, think of it as the dedication you're putting into the quiz team now. You will be also where I am today. So your future will be bright. Whereas you're the one who playing football or cricket not so secure academically, it's just me giving them a pep talk. Dave said I was maybe a little bit too philosophical, but they lack interest because, like, they would say, "Oh, we're walking around in the campus. Nobody does know who we are, right? Them don't know we're even practicing for this quiz team. But you show up on TV now. Everybody now knows who you are. So when you fail, even if you're in a sixth form and you had that respect before, like Sarah said, a first form are going to walk up to you because the assumption is if that person is in sixth form, you're supposed to know X, Y, Z, not realizing that you're under pressure to know so many things, and because you don't have that foundation. But now they do have, where they start them from first form. That's what the guy who's the coach, he's also a past student, but he's teaching there now, and he was a past quiz guy as well, right? So they start them there, but he said the problem that they're having is the upper school is less motivated when they're forced to put those younger ones ahead. They don't have that maturity now to pull themselves through, So again, it goes back to the school showing interest in them.
Yeah, it's not going to move on at Easton, but this conversation is a direction in terms of where it ought to be going, because it needs to structure as a team. It needs to start from first farm. It needs to have a coaching thing in place.
Right.
And then the job of the coach and for motivate the entire academic people in the school, the nerds, them as you call them, to say, yeah, our job
Yeah.
for big up Meadowbrook in a school challenge.
The
But not
school,
only
yeah.
that, they also have junior schools challenge quiz now, I understand.
Right.
So it's
Yes,
not like,
Right.
you know, I just think you have to have, it's like the cricket team in the 80s. It just came together with the right people and the right coach.
Mhm.
It's just that time.
Yeah, man, the vision.
To put it into football analogy, it's like Man U, was it during the 1990s, and as soon as Ferguson went,
Right.
bye-bye, good.
They haven't won since he left. Right, exactly.
So, well, I'm
So
focusing on them now, and I hope, while Sarah and Dave is on the call, I hope, because, I brag about my teammates to them, that we're a very cohesive team, and we still, up to this day, how many years after, communicate with each other, that, maybe somehow all of us can even just, say something to them, because they feel like they are definitely on their own out in the, the deep blue ocean. So
But
even if it's just to hear from them, from us, from time to time, just to motivate them.
well, I'm going to give you a motivation script now. Just let's say you can have the bragging rights, and let's say only did win school challenge like how we did win the cricket and the football at the time. And
Yeah.
we're back at the school now. And you and Sarah know the difference, why didn't we win,
Yeah.
Because we didn't start from early and we didn't have a coach. And so we are changed that, the culture that I got changed. But again, the school have to buy into the culture what we want,
Yes.
That the culture have to be there from the school, and not say it not there, I just don't know. I've been back to the school like, for a while, so I don't know what time. But them conversation, and I'm sure the people might will hear the conversation what we're talking about, because it's all about Meadowbrook. And all
Yeah,
about
and it will help. It will help.
all about getting
I guess the question is that in 1958 there was an experiment.
exactly.
What is the experiment for the
No.
next 65 years?
Yes.
No, exactly right, sir. And last week, I had a conversation, right, with C.R.D. Franklin, right, and him put it best to me. Him say, Meadowbrook was a school of possibilities. When he came from the inner city, him call it the garrison. Him say him come and him live, see a lifestyle him never do so before. And this Meadowbrook became a school of possibilities for him. And that's the word me want to use I go forward. Meadowbrook have to be the school of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He went to school the same time like in the 80s. I think he started school in 1980. Right? So he was there, and
it was like 2 or 3 years behind us.
Right, it was golden years, he was there. Right?
Yes.
And it was a school of possibilities, but I'm saying, just like you said, Sarah, I want to create a school of possibilities that long after we gone, the vision still exists. It's how we're going to sustain it and make it keep going. That's the point, because it can be done, We do already, and this time we're going to do it again. I'm going to say we're going to do it because it do already, and we just have to motivate and inspire ourselves and hope this conversation to do it again, and not just in a sports alone.
No.
So,
We have to make ourselves, Prince, as a vibrant set of past students, and make sure that we make ourselves visible, even if it's not as a whole, but make ourselves visible as past students to the present students, right? And so they can say, oh, this guy went to Meadowbrook, or this lady went to Meadowbrook, and they are now traveling to Ethiopia for career excellence. So this is something to aspire to. So we have, based on our golden age, we have enough people that we can either individually or collectively inspire the ones who are there now.
Yeah, man, that's the goal, man. And I have an idea for that, and I throw it out every time the conversation comes up. It's not my idea.
Yeah.
I got it from a former student, Salome Rose, and Donovan
Yes.
Carr, another Meadowbrook stalwart from up in the hills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said to me, she said she went down back to Jamaica last year, and she took out a little girl with her for go spend the day, right? And it made her feel so much better, because she talked to the student, to met them parents. But me, I said, take it to a different level. Have a systematic thing in place where vetted and properly done and organized by the school, and we as old students, where our old student either send her money, or if I'm in Jamaica like you were, him go to the school, go spend 10 or 20 US dollars and buy lunch for one student for the day and have a conversation.
Yes.
Just talk to them. Just start. I say, if you can't go, you send a money to your friend at Jamaica and say, go carry this little girl and little boy I go to school. The school I go choose them. Talk to them,
Correct.
have the conversation, and more important, because I know the students are going to love this. You tape the conversation, we edit out them name, but them are going to hear them voice. And them must say, this old student that talk to me and attack. You're not going to talk about school challenge. Me and Tony are going to talk about football or cricket, but you just start having the conversation. You try to bridge a gap between the past and the present. And trust me,
Correct.
in a no time, I'm not going to talk to somebody this week about it, because I'm going to put it out to somebody
Well,
already.
one of the things I've always said is, why is it there's not a system for us overseas to set up that we pay a subscription fee as past students?
Well, it's
I always say if you're attending the meeting in October, you have to pay a subscription. But for me, obviously, I'm not in the States and it's more challenging here. There should be a bank account I can just put some money in. It seems like, remember Margaret, when I sent some money, it was so few, you had to send it up to New York.
Yes. The New York chapter has something like that in place, and they're actually working on the thing that Jelly's working on that. They're putting something in place, working it out with the school and everybody. So it things are in the pipeline. It's just that they're not public yet.
The technology change, Sarah, you're right about that. The technology change, it shouldn't be so difficult. But we have to have a vision we are buying to, and I say, I agree with the subscription, but we want to bridge a gap between we and the current student population. And I'm saying, if we can
I agree with you.
If we can have a system where we as old stars, because all are over 50, whether we like this or no, me are 60 last month, all the way, right? We're not going to be there for much longer. We're not going to be there for the next 65 years here. We won't be here. But we want to put a vision in place, and I say we have a unison between the past student and the current student. And I say, I just idea me throw it, You got
no, but I
that step further, it also have to involve the staff, the leadership on the ground, because we have to admit we are a couple of degrees of separation from really what's going on. And so you have a sector in Jamaica, you have a sector in New York, you have a sector in South Miami that needs to get started up again. But we really don't have that one vision that everybody's working together with the school.
Right.
So somebody has to create a master plan that everybody is in sync and we're not competing against each other, but we know exactly what our space and place is.
Right, Tony. Exactly. But go ahead, Sarah. It's only like you have something else to add.
I think one of the things I've always noticed I think they've changed it slightly now, is that when they used to vote people in to sit on the Past Students Association, they were only giving them like a year at a time. No government is elected for a year because they can't do anything in a year.
That's right.
That should be part of the vision, that if people have the time and want to be elected, they should be given like 3-4 year terms.
Yeah.
A year is too short.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
What about the points to focus on? So, for instance, what I was gonna say is that Jelly, you always talk about our years being the golden years, and we talk about the experiment. And if you put everything together, when you think about our experiences in all of the interviews that you've done, and all of the teachers that you've interviewed, that we have also mentioned and having taught us, and have a relationship with even after school. When you look at the key ingredients, is that I think it's where that experiment that we were a part of, let's put it that way, it triggered something within all of us, right? Certainly everybody on this call, right? To manifest itself in the 78 to 86, maybe 87 years, right? Whereby we, the students, looked within ourselves to excel, in keeping with the motto of the school, right? I mean, I there have been times when in other forum where people say and single me out and say, it's because of Dave, and it's not in a negative light, it's a positive light. Why I'm going here, or why I'm doing this, or Dave said something or gave me a call, or whatever the case might be. I don't know that I'm doing this. It's just a part of me, and it's upbringing. It's the high school years, the people that I went to school with. Something was birthed in that time in all of us that said, we can push a little bit more. We can use our initiative, and I think it's a bit of a, no disrespect intended to anybody or to put anybody down, but it's a bit of a lack of initiative on many of our parts that keep us back. You're not exercising initiative you're not showing initiative to disrespect anybody, but you're showing initiative to either push yourself forward or push your team forward. And it's a weird place that we're in, because
let me ask a question before you chip in here, Sarah, because Sarah gave me this question to ask, and I think it's an important question, and we're talking about it right now. I said, let me ask the question, because I think it's an important discussion. And the question I must ask Jelly was, what do you think can be done to inspire Meadowbrook Park students to want to give back more? I'm going to put it out to all on upon the conversation. What do you think?
First of all, I think if you're going to do this properly, you perhaps need to pay someone, maybe an administrative role, either part-time, because you're asking people to give up. Then you're asking people to give up time, and that's not always possible to give up as much time as the post relies.
It can't be voluntary.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So the question is, why don't we all sit down and say, okay, what is the vision? How do we get there? Do we need to employ someone? We don't. It doesn't need to be a 9-to-5 job. It could be a couple hours each week to do the role.
Fully agree.
There's everyone's economic situation is different, but we're not. But one full cocoa basket.
I agree with you. And Easton, you go ahead, because I have a comment on this, but you go ahead, Easton.
Well, you mean the same question from CRD?
Yeah, the same question. What do you think can be done to inspire Meadowbrook past students for want to give more? Because that's what we're here for. Not that's what we're for. In a sense, the conversation evolved to that. All of us want to give up to the school. You go down there and say, I try and motivate the school challenge where you love. What do you think can be done? That's what I ask, yeah.
Some people are waiting to be led, but I'm inclined to be in full support of what Sarah is saying. Now, if how I felt, right? Because I had voiced what I think needed to be done for the school challenge team, right? And so someone heard what I said and shared it with the guy who is also a past student who is coaching the team. So the guy reached out to me. I circumnavigated all of the past student association then, because I said, no disrespect for none of them, but no one showed that interest. So I said to the guy, tell me whatever it is that you guys need and I will gladly help. He said they needed a TV. So I bought the TV and I brought it and I gave it to them. Not bragging, I'm just telling you what I have done. Some people may or may not want to help. Some people feel like once they left Meadowbrook, that is it, them they wash them hand clean because they never got what they thought they should have gotten from Meadowbrook, right? But I think you may have to have somebody who is not even in the past student association, because to what Tony was saying, because each one of the states, or if they're in Jamaica or whatever, each one of them has a different agenda, and none of them are willing to come together and say we just want to have one goal, even though we're operating out of different locations. But the goal is, these are our objectives, but we're going to address them together, because everybody wants to say it's either New York, if it's Georgia, if it's Jamaica. But the end result of all of this is for the betterment of Meadowbrook, not for where you're living, because now we're divided.
Yeah.
I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just lack of leadership, global leadership and organization.
Right, that's what I meant. I don't think it's intentional, but there is on, because New York say, well, we want to send football shoes to the football team. One other one, we're going to send, tablets. One other one, everybody may be getting something. In this case, what my opinion was, the school challenge team was getting nothing. So I said, well, I'm going to go. I'm not going to go run down nobody or say to them, why only don't put aside $5,000 for the team? So I contacted them myself. Now I have a working relationship with them. But the school overall, meaning, like, say, for example, we have too many professionals out there who can inspire these students. May not be money, but if we say, well, we're going to have a career week where it's only past students are coming, and we're going to address these students to where we came from at Meadowbrook to where we are now, and show them how they can also achieve on a dream that they may otherwise feel, but because they now see that this person wore the same uniform that I'm sitting here wearing, is now a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, whatever field that we're in. And we share those success stories with them. Sometimes it's not money, but we have to rile up the morale then of the students, and it may have an impact somewhere along the way.
It's not money.
And Easton and Jelly, I have to say this, I have to drop off. I'm going to say this real quick. There is a lot of great ideas that as alumni we have in different sectors, and we just don't have an organized way to put it all together. There are people in Jamaica working their butts off, trying to help out if you see how bad it is when you go there. Here's where I go back to what Sarah said, though. Without sustained, consistent leadership, the ideas rise for a while and drop off, and they lack continuity, and nobody's there to keep it rolling and have ownership of it. Until we create a structure that will ensure that there's continuity and ownership and funding, because man and man are trying between them obligations and the other work that they're doing to find time here and time there.
Yeah.
If we continue to have a fragmented approach, we're going to continue to have fragmented results. But somebody, and that person has not yet, has to step up and say, and it's not an individual, it has to be an organization. So if that person falls out, there's a group. This is the structure of leadership. This is our objectives that we're going to do, and start to divide and conquer with all the willing efforts. Because there are people mentoring, there are people funding, there's people helping out. You step up, Easton, and helped out with a TV, and we're like putting a bunch of fingers to plug the dikes, but we still don't have a long-term approach. So until we get organized enough to have that long-term approach and the leadership and the structure, we're going to continually putting band-aids on this.
I agree with you, Tony. But I will put it a different way before you come in there. Because how I look on it is like, and I agree with what Sarah said, that's apartheid. But it's like when the United States moved from horse buggies to car in the beginning of the last century, 20th century, one of the most important things they had to build was roads. Because car needs good roads to drive on. The infrastructure what Tony attacked, which is like we have built the road. Because everything existed. The people were willing to give, the cars existed. But if the road's not there, and the road is the infrastructure where a man knows say this is the organization we might go to, or this is the structure we're in place, and know say. And we're not this nobody, we're not creating a new organization, What I call it.
The conduit for
Exactly. What I call it in such a way where we're building the roads then. I use that because I don't want nobody think so I oversee them or build nothing bigger than them. What try put the road in place where, man, if you want do something for the school challenge Easton, for call the structure in place, you call this organization with a paid administrator on the thing. And say, yeah, man, you gotta go through this association, I will know exactly how it's gonna work. It can be done, but it don't exist yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it will exist, but it don't exist yet. Right? So these conversations are very good for talk about because people want to give back. But it cannot be done in a fragmented way, I don't know.
Correct.
It can't. Let me put it another way. It will be more productive for doing it in a structured way, where the roads are built. That Sarah now for wonder how she was send the money to Jamaica. She click and know who send it to, and know where it's going to, and said she want fair money to go to the school challenge, and she can vision and know exactly say it I got this. So.
Well, you need a proper system where you have accounts in place, how the money is spent, so there's no.
Exactly. You can click and say exactly where it work. I agree with you.
So after this conversation, I need to have a conversation with Easton to get the coach number.
Right,
Correct.
right. But that's just the beginning. That is just, and God bless you for doing that and keep doing it. And once you keep, but I'm saying we're gonna try. I hope somebody step up and create a vision, not create a vision, because the vision is there. Create the roads. May I keep it simple? Because I don't want to use the terminal where people think. So may I try move where the alumni them will exist. So I do humans work
No,
all these years.
but my question then is, why are we not also looking at some of the models? Anytime I see pictures of like immaculate past dinner, the room full.
Right, right.
And I sure say all of them don't live in Jamaica.
No, right.
Or what happened? My cousin went. A couple of cousins of I went to Monroe. One of them was on the schools challenge team that won, and they have the structures there. Monroe is like it's an old boys network. You need a job, phone me. Let me see what I can do.
Right.
But we don't seem to have that.
We don't have it yet, Sarah. I won't put it that way.
Okay, yes, it's not there yet.
We have to put it. But I remember we're not as old as those school, We're a young
No,
school.
I get that point. But I think
what we just coming of age. The generation of us just coming of age, we realize that needs to put in place. That's all I was saying.
That's true.
Make sure people hear this and not think about this. The alumni them will exist all over the country.
No, because they've done good so far, and without them, the school would have been nowhere.
Exactly. But we want to take it to another level. That's all I say. We want to build the roads. That's how I put it.
We need to bring the pieces together, what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Build the roads, build the pieces together that each organization can talk to one another and know say it's a structured thing. Exactly. You're not going to take with them independence or with them. They just say, okay, this is where the roads will connect with each other instead of different things. So, but Dave, any comment on this though? I don't know if you have anything else to add to this.
Well, my focus is more how can we? I mean, all of what was discussed is great and is needed, but and this is based on my experience in terms of I mentioned early in the conversation with Dr. Morris and Miss McLennan that they helped to bring something out of me. Coupled with other life experiences and stuff, but they have to bring something out of me whereby I try to dig as far within myself as possible to try and achieve something. And then along the way, I might either be offered help or ask for help, right? And or just try to put all my experiences together and all my learning and everything together, and then try to figure this thing out and try and make steps forward. But I think a part of all of this that we're talking about should include these people and not expect a handout per se all the time. Because Easton, Sarah, myself, Dave, Karen Lewis, and others, Garfield Campbell and others who helped us with the 84 School Chances team, Sarah? Easton?
Yeah.
Particular. I don't remember having any teacher at all. You guys remember? I don't. Right. So as far as I'm concerned, it's only we were the ones who achieved that. Right. And this is what I'm saying. We and even okay, to a lesser extent, our table tennis team in those days as well. Right. It was Dave Norman, Henry Mead, Grantley, myself, and Jimmy Chang. Right. And we had an outside coach. The school paid for the coach, right? But I think he was only there for maybe a year, and the funding disappeared. So whatever experiences that we had in the first year, and whatever was sparked in me for the game of table tennis back then, extended actually way past Meadowbrook. Right? I played table tennis even up to when I came to this country. And I was still decent. Right. And everybody wanted to play me. So my point is that how can we turn on that switch in all of the students there, or in most of the students there, some of them, to say in the same way it was turned on for us in different ways.
Right.
To say, okay, this is what we'd like to do. One or two of us, three of us, would like to do this. How can we go about? What are the things available to us that we can, or the personnel available to us that we can say, okay, we have this idea. this is what we'd like to do. Give us some advice as to how we can achieve it. Please help us as well, that sort of thing. I don't think we were necessarily shy where that sort of thing was concerned. And I think maybe that's a part of what has disappeared from past 1986 or 1987. Why we have this decline then in the level of participation that Meadowbrook has had in the various different school events.
But we can get it back, and this conversation will inspire all of us and people are listening to them conversation, because they agree. We need the money, but it's not a money problem, because people want to give back, right?
Yeah.
The infrastructure exists in a fragmented way, but we need a coordinated infrastructure. That's why I said we have to find a way to coordinate all the infrastructure in place. That we don't have to worry how it work. Coordinated, and you're right, Sarah, because we don't have to mention that, but coordinated in a way everybody can know say it's accountable and fully vetted and properly accountable. We're not accusing nobody or nothing, but that is how we live in a modern world.
Maybe what we really need to think about is forming a company and run it like a company.
That's exactly right, Sarah. That's exactly right. As a business, yes.
It's a business.
Yes.
And the business is to further Meadowbrook High School.
Exactly. I like that idea, Sarah. Exactly.
And you have directors that are accountable to us, the shareholders.
Exactly. We the shareholders. Exactly right, Sarah. That put better than how I could have put it. Exactly. And then you take on things. But I don't want to spend a whole heap of time to talk about that, because that's the future, and not the far future, because I want to put this in place before any of us reach 60. All of them past 60 already. So yeah, let me ask you some more questions. Look, I believe it or not, we're there almost over 2.5 hours already, right? But
I think Tony and thing drop off already.
Yeah. I said, but no problem. We can manage this. And I know some chat plenty already. So let me ask you, all on, but do start for Sarah. What the most embarrassing moment you remember at Meadowbrook you can look back on with a smile?
Oh, gee. I think being called up onto the stage for the schools challenge quiz thing, and then at graduation I was being presented with like an outstanding trophy, and Miss McLennan is doing it, and she said, would you like to have say a few words? And I'm thinking, are you crazy? You can't, you really? And that was I just wanted to get back to my seat and just crawl in. I don't like being public, but those two stand out for me. I think one of the other ones is first form. Mr. Gooden was teaching a maths class to fourth form, and he came to the maths class and said to Miss Nevins, my fourth form students are so stupid them don't know XYZ. Might not be a phrase quite like that. Oh, Sarah, you can go on. I just said, no, I don't know the answer. I just wanted to leave the class. I didn't want to be in, I don't do public.
Yeah, Mr. Gooden had that reputation. We talk about that. Mr. Gooden had that reputation, Sarah. I know exactly what you're talking about. He was on
I don't want to.
He was on varnish, to put it that way.
Yeah.
He was from the old school, Them say
I know, my brother even had it to show how old he was.
Yeah, which school your brother went to?
Meadowbrook.
Oh, really, yeah? What year your brother went to Meadowbrook?
Would have been, I think, 70. 77.
He started, okay, so I was there when he was in first farm. When I was in first farm, he probably was there. I forgot looking at
or 76, I think he left sometime about there.
Oh, okay.
I went looking at the yearbook of one of those old yearbooks, the 75, 76.
It's a 75 one.
Yeah, I will look and see, but I didn't even realize that he had a brother come to Meadowbrook. And so
You didn't have an 84 yearbook, Jelly?
Yeah, man. I have the 82, 83 one. That's the one I sent to you. I don't have the 84 one.
Yeah, there's no didn't we do one, guys?
Yes, there's one. There's one, but
83.
83.
No, man. One when we were in sixth form. We had one when we were in sixth form.
Yes, there was one.
I have that one, Dave. I will send it to now. 85, 86 one. I will send that.
Yes, that's the one Dave's talking about.
I have one.
Okay.
Not so pretty on my phone, but I will send it to you. I will send it to her.
Yeah, you sent me 3 of them. It says 86, but I don't see. I don't think any of us appeared in that 86 one. So I think we did one 84.
Those are the only 3 I have. Dave.
Okay.
If you have anybody to have any, I'm saying the other one I have, which I will send to Sarah, is the one I start 74, 75. But that I know, no, those are like the years when I started school. I'm going to send that to you anyway. So the same question applies to you, Easton. What the most embarrassing moment, remember, at Meadowbrook, you can look back on with a smile.
A smile. So I never really have a lot of embarrassing moments, to be honest with you, because teachers them always prop me up, you know. But I remember, as you know, you mentioned in the beginning, I was the house captain for Rodney House, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this time we were in sixth form, and they were having something. I think it was something in the assembly hall, but it was, you know, are you gonna perform something, read a poem, and not say a poem, but it was a competition, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I said we can't find nobody, you know. And Mrs. Campbell, who was Miss Campbell, Melody Campbell, who became Mrs. Russell, came to me and she said, you know, we need somebody to participate for Rodney. So I said, all right. I think Jacinth, who was in sixth form with us, went and she did something. I don't remember what she did. So I said, well, I'm going to take this for the team. So I'm captain. Jacinth Cox, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, I'm going to go and do this poem, right? So, and I'm supposed to be, you know, the one who have the, you know, that experience debating and talking and all of this crap. So, but if you don't know something, you just don't know it, right? And I didn't know the poem. So I said, all right, then. She said, no, just read through it quick and see what you remember. So I go up on the stage now, and the poem was called The Bird. So I stand up, and big embarrassment now, you know, because you're in sixth form and the whole school in assembly all watching. And after I said The Bird, I don't remember one word that came out. And so Miss Russell now stand up at the end, at the back of the assembly hall to the side where nobody can see, right? So she's reading, she's saying it out, but in a whispering thing, right?
Yeah.
So I can continue, but once I said The Bird and I couldn't remember, all I think I remember was I was so embarrassed. I'm trying to use the tie to cover my face, and you know the tie is very narrow. So
yeah.
But every time I hear about a bird, I remember
that poem.
that poem, and that it was very embarrassing, you know. So at the end of my time at Meadowbrook, after, you know, going through with much confidence and everything, so that was it.
Yeah. And you, Dave, what the most embarrassing moment you can look back on with a smile?
I don't think I'd necessarily had any embarrassing moments, but it would be the times when we were playing either table tennis or badminton matches. This was fifth and sixth form. And typically we would lose. Actually, we lost all the time.
No coach, Dave. Don't take it hard.
Back to that.
Exactly. No coach, exactly. Remind me, Sarah, exactly.
But you are young and impressionable, and you know you take defeat hard. You know, granted, the people are better than us. But my point is though is that it would be just the as the ABC Wild World of Sports thing said, the agony of defeat in front of your peers.
Thrill of victory and agony of defeat. I remember that.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, but it wasn't really anything. I can't say there was anything that was
embarrassing.
Okay. Personality shattering or embarrassing or anything like that. No.
Yeah. All right. So Sarah, what the best learning experience you got from Meadowbrook?
I think it was the friends I made. I've made lifelong friends. Yeah, I think it was, for me, it was the people. As I said, it was divine intervention why I ended up there, and it's the friendships I made while I was at Meadowbrook and into my life now. And you cannot buy that.
No, that is so true. The fact that we can have them conversation, I talk for almost 3 hours, like, with their school same way. It's like, uno much younger than me, and we have a conversation like we're classmates. Is a good.
Exactly.
True.
Comrade.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah, life changing event. Boy, I can't imagine Sarah. I walk past Nanneville for go Excelsior.
No.
Sarah, you know the nickname for Excelsior?
No.
Haggy,
yes.
No, man. I never forget that morning. My mom looked in Immaculate and Queens and just can't find her name. Can I have the paper? No. And she just went into the bedroom, shut the door. I found it, but it's Excelsior. That's not happening.
Haggy, not near my nature, don't worry. That is, you would not fit in on a Haggy, Sarah, don't worry.
It wouldn't happen.
No. So Easton,
No, but
what the best learning experience you had at Meadowbrook?
For me, it's like Sarah said, the friendships, and we, mutual respect and admiration for each other's intellect and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But that I take away from me for my life was, as a learning experience, was when I became the president of the Key Club. And it took me out of Meadowbrook while I was at Meadowbrook, because then I had to go meet with the Kiwanians and so forth. And it built leadership, instilled leadership in me that I can use up to today.
Yeah.
And I credit that to Meadowbrook, because a lot of the schools, because I went on to become the lieutenant governor, and so we had to give the charter to start at other high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was a very good experience, because I'm the one starting. I get to learn to love what the Kiwanians stood for, and now I get to share that with other high schools, right? But I tie it back to Meadowbrook to say that all of the schools that I gave the charter to, it was some of the schools that I had picked for, and had I gone there, they wouldn't have had the Key Club for me to be a part of it. So that back to the divine intervention that Sarah mentioned is almost like, even though we knew we were a part of an experiment, but something else drew us to Meadowbrook.
Yeah, but
that is bigger than we can even imagine,
Definitely, divine intervention. But we didn't know we were part of an experiment. I just beginning to learn that after 40 years, Easton.
Yes.
I thought I was just lucky for in a place. We could have pushed the envelope and get through with it. I didn't realize.
Right.
I didn't realize it was part of a wonderful experiment, man.
From
Wonderful.
from uniforms to anatomy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly, Dave. Exactly. To the cricket pitch. I will push the envelope. That's it. Don't worry. Exactly.
Yes. And I have to add this to Prince and Dave, Sarah. The big bonus for me of having been to Meadowbrook is that my wife is a past student of Meadowbrook too, So
same year, boss. You need to remember that.
Yeah, so call her name. You don't want to come along, call her name unless you don't want to.
No, I'm more than happy to call her name. Is Delrose Coelho, so she's now Delrose Leiba, but and one of the most
Robertson.
beautiful ones that we
Robertson.
covered while we were at Meadowbrook, but I was living in Nerdville at the time, but here I am.
Well, so she was above your peer grade in their school, eh?
Way above, yeah, man.
Your wife never interested in nobody else.
All right.
Way above, but here I am. So
yeah, man.
again, Meadowbrook has granted me favorably, in that regard. So I'm happy from different angles. So that's a good.
Yeah, man, that's a good spin-off. They're not the only Meadowbrook couple, because a couple of Meadowbrook couple have been on these programs. So yeah.
Yes, I've heard.
Dougie Crooks.
Yeah, right. Dougie Benchan, right, yeah. So
his wife used to be my neighbor.
I mean, Easton's wife? Yes, I know.
No,
Nesta was in there. Yeah, that is true, Sarah. I know them pretty well. Dougie, I'm a good friend, and I've kept in touch with them over all these 50 years. I was at his house recently in Atlanta in August. I posted those pictures up on Facebook, so yeah.
Dougie and I were at the same company at the same time, too.
At IBM?
Yeah, man.
And I didn't even know, in Atlanta or in Jamaica?
No, in Jamaica. When I just started off, he was well established at IBM.
I didn't know that, Dave. I did not know that at all.
I hardly saw him, but I knew he was there at the time.
Yeah. Small world, man. Small world. Big or not. So the same question applies to you, Dave. What the best learning experience you get from Meadowbrook?
Well, again, along the theme of what I'd been saying before, it's just learning how to evolve, adjust, and Meadowbrook has helped me. All of my classmates friends, classmates, teachers, and all of the experiences there have helped me to evolve from an introverted, shy kid to maybe not so introverted, shy anymore, but certainly not a kid. But it's also helped me to it has also helped me to use that to tap into intellect and to share, skills in an everyday setting to as the school motto says, let your light so shine. And without blowing my own trumpet too much, I have good friends, I have good acquaintances that value um my friendship, and I value theirs. It's not only about what you can contribute to society in an economic sense, but just on a personal level. Being a good person, being a good friend, and I think that's important. Even maybe at the risk of saying above even all of the other stuff.
Definitely.
That's
Just
true.
just
That's
living good with
true.
people.
I can verify that for Dave and Sarah. And I have to say to Prince, in keeping what Dave is saying there. So about 5 or 6 years ago, this is WhatsApp, so in modern day technology, I started a group chat for our graduating year, which is called Link 83, and it's been going nonstop ever since. So again, a testimony to the lifelong friendships that we have built, which again started at Meadowbrook. So
connection. Good. Let me ask you now a couple of questions, because I believe it's not to come up to the 3 hour mark. So let me ask you a couple of last questions.
You have some editing to do.
Yeah, no man, I edit out nothing. Trust me, I started a little late. So I started at 3. I wanted to finish by a certain time because I have another conversation to begin at 7. So let me ask you first, Sarah, how it make you feel bringing up back all these Meadowbrook memories after all these years?
Gosh, thank you is all I can say. It's been great talking about old times, old people, old places. I think of those that are no longer here with us and the special memories they've left.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah. I'm here still. Good. And the same question to you, Easton.
well, it made me feel like that 11-year-old again. Walking into the gates of Meadowbrook. I can remember clearly that morning. This is in this conversation now has brought me back. Walking into the gates of Meadowbrook, there was a song playing on the radio. Lola, she was a showgirl by Barry
I remember that song. Yes.
Like, that was what was playing. The Sweetie Man was at the gate, right? And that's what welcomed me into Meadowbrook. And this conversation, I said it to you before, but you don't have the evidence that you're doing a phenomenal job, because I can feel myself walking down the corridors, and the song says that down the corridors of memory back to solid gold, and this is what you have brought to me, and it was brought to me while I listened to the other conversations, but to be a part of it, I really am thankful.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Easton. Even though I get your text and didn't read it. I don't get it. I don't see it. I'm joking. I don't remember Easton. Sorry. My apologies. So you, Dave. How it make you feel I bring back all these Meadowbrook memories?
It felt good from the very first conversation, and I keep referring to it, the one with Clive and Chris. I didn't even know things about Chris that was raised in that interview, but then thinking back, and remembering the times I played cricket with Clive, the times in the classroom with Clive and Chris, times in sixth form with Sarah and Easton and the other guys, in various different forms, fragmented memories, still fragmented, but all in the context of our tenure at Meadowbrook. It's good to recall. It's wholesome. It just gives you almost a safe feeling. That even though while you're going through it, you may have had the challenges, you may have had a so-called bad man threaten you or something, you rank with a guy, and thing, and man call you say, yo, you would come here and say, nah, and then want to beat you up, but him not really beat you up.
Yeah.
These things you didn't know, right? But just thinking back on all of those experiences, all of the ones, the academic ones, the sporting ones, with table tennis, badminton, football, beating the guys, after your year, before, well, mostly before us, so it's like you and I met Wayne Fuller here in Atlanta, right? I sort of tried to keep in touch with Beanie, but that kind of fell to the weeds over the last 20 years. But different people, just being able to, just add again, if you will, to the evolving chapters of Meadowbrook in a different kind of way, because clearly, we only knew of the people for us, the people
Right.
before us.
And now you only go circle, exactly. This is the beauty.
Right, in the context of the year before, or the 5 years before,
Exactly.
when you first joined fifth form, or six years before, when you first joined first form, and then when you're leaving school, you really don't know the first, second, and third formers. You probably know the fourth form.
Yeah. And we have
Right,
to do
so
exactly.
it's just a good feeling. It's just just knowing that you're a part of something that was meaningful in many respects.
And the second to last question before I ask, because I have a last question to everybody, but and you first here, is there anything you'd like comment on or bring up or I didn't bring up at all?
I think you've covered everything. I mean, my as I said, it was like a tour of duty. The day I left Meadowbrook, I left home in some respects.
Yes.
A 10-minute walk for 7 years up and down the same road. Campus was a big new world to me. One where I had to face taking the bus. I mean, you could imagine if I had to take the bus to go to Excelsior.
No, I can't imagine you.
So it was a shelter from the big bad world for me, because unlike Easton, who probably had to travel, Dave and I walked to school.
I walked to school this year. I came from Pembroke. It was a longer walk,
Yeah.
but I walked to school, so I know where you're talking.
So it was a haven. I'm pleased for the people I met, the teachers I met.
No, man, you see what you said a while ago? Vivian said the same thing in a different way. Vivian Thomas, for 2 years, and his brother was at school, Howard Thomas, the first man who won a gold medal at Champs in 1970. I think a year in the start school, 78 or 79. And Vivian said the first 2 years after he left Meadowbrook, he had nightmares. I didn't know what to do. He leave Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook was it's like a sacred ground for him. He don't know what to do. It take him a while.
He was a drill sergeant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man, he was in the army.
He was a drill sergeant at JDF.
Yeah, exactly. No, right into the first couple of years. Make few conversation will come out soon, man, because I have to push it up, because I think it was a very important conversation, man. So, yeah. So, you, Easton, is there anything we think I could have bring up or I didn't bring up at all? The floor is yours.
No, because, I know you'll bring up the email when you find it eventually, but you covered everything. And like I said, you brought me back down the corridors of time. Meadowbrook for me was an experience. It's like a ride that you did not want to get off because of everything that happened there. And for me, I think I was a well-rounded individual after I left. My true confession is I cried when I left Meadowbrook, even though I was going straight to UWI, where now I know Meadowbrook people were there already, and some were going up with me. But the fact that I was leaving what became my home for 7 years was a reality that I was not prepared to face. And that is a testimony to Meadowbrook itself as an institution.
Sound like us to start with a love story.
Yeah. So you, Dave, is there anything where you think I could have asked or I didn't ask?
I don't know, but I didn't cry. Just for the record. But I did miss Meadowbrook. I, I, I mean, no, I don't think there's anything else you could have asked. I think just in the natural flow of a conversation, we covered a lot, and still we didn't cover plenty. To an extent. So,
Yeah.
but that's fine. It's still
It's evolving. It's
time
evolving,
is
Dave.
finite.
It's an evolving
Yeah, it's
conversation. It was an important
yeah,
conversation. I think this is a very good conversation because it take it to a level where it's like we look to the future in terms of how, and we had some important discussion about that tonight. So yeah. So
yeah.
the last question, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So just to say one thing, I think Sarah said it in the beginning. She didn't take a bus until she went to UWI.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take a bus until I went to CAS. No, that's not true. Just a little bit before that, is when I took a bus while I was at Meadowbrook because
No, but I mean, I took a bus when I was at Meadowbrook Day, but it's a novelty. When you have to do it every day,
exactly.
it's not a novelty.
You volunteer, you don't force to take the bus.
But
Yes, it's a volunteer.
the point I was making now, where I took the bus to, the first time I took a bus outside of Meadowbrook, the area, was down to Dunoon Park Technical to play a TT game.
Yeah.
And as far as I was concerned, the area hostile and the school was hostile.
Yes.
But the course of the match was changed in my game, as a matter of fact, because you had of course not in a home crowd, and these people are your enemy in that manner of speaking.
Yeah.
And there was one particular point where I was playing this guy, and I was just intimidated, just plain out intimidated. And him smash a ball, and I smash it back. I won the point. And after that, the guy started shaking where I was shaking before. I stopped shaking and I started busting my ass. Sorry.
It changed the dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And won the game. I think we might have won the match that time just because of that shift in the trend of the match.
And that
So yeah. But that's to say this, that Meadowbrook took me out of a place of obscurity to inobscurity.
Yeah.
In a manner of speaking.
So let me ask you the last question, and you first, Sarah. And I'm going to ask in a two-part way because somebody, not that bad, but whenever somebody pinch and tell me something, I say, I can put it in the conversation. I think it's a good second part. What made Meadowbrook magical? I mean, I'll put the question, two-part question. Can Meadowbrook be magical again? But what made Meadowbrook magical for you?
I think I think for me it was home away from home. The teachers, the students, the friendships I made. I think you wanted to be there. I think school life has changed so much for kids now. With social media, has made it for some an unwelcome place. It might have happened, but I was never aware of anybody being bullied.
No,
I don't know if that was a thing when I was at Meadowbrook.
Neither do I, Sarah. But it might have happened. I'm not going to discount it. But
it might have happened, but it was never out in the open.
No.
If it did, hopefully it was hushed up and dealt with.
Yeah, and that was a special part, both of the truth, Sarah. I agree with you. I actually agree with that. Yeah.
I think kids today have a lot more to contend with than we did. Life was simple then.
Yeah. So
it was simple. You went to school, you did your sport, and you went home, and okay, you had a good time along the way.
Yeah. Social media.
That's what it was. It was magical, and I went to school and I never had to worry.
No, you went to home away from home. I never have to worry at all.
Yeah.
So the second part question: can it be magical again?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're talking about 40 years ago. The school is different, the country is different. I think Tony alluded to it, economic hardships, etc. But maybe we need to have a strong past students association, a parents association, where we actually could possibly fund some of the teachers, top up their salaries. That's the reality now.
Yeah, man.
And if we get the model right, then as you said, it's a business that we are running for the betterment of the school.
And that's how we have to look on it, sir. I agree with you. It's like what for farmer corporation. We go raise fund and all them things and just coordinate everything. I agree with you. That's the vision. So it can be magical again, but we have to put certain things in place.
Magical again is finding a Mr. Here again to bring that love of sport back to the school that people want to be queuing up to play for the cricket team.
Exactly. Our Meadowbrook become a buzz where it's a academy, a sporting.
Wasn't it in the news a couple of years ago? Like, was it JC or Calabar trying to encourage this star runner to come to the school? Yeah. It's like Qatar trying to buy all the athletes that run for Qatar are bought from other countries.
Yeah.
But we need to grow our own,
And we did it before, so we can do it again, man.
I have no doubt about that. In another 65 years, another set of students will be having the same conversation again after their glory period.
Well, not after we put out this conversation, then we hear it and we can put a template in place.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm saying we're putting the conversation out there and we're going to create a template that we don't have to reinvent the wheel again.
No. So I think the magic will come back. Mm-hmm. I hope the magic comes back with the West Indies team. I'm hoping for that, and I'm hoping the same for Meadowbrook. I know which one is easier.
Yeah, we know which one is easier, Sarah. Definitely right.
The only team that beat now is when England goes there. So I am hopeful that, and the thing is, we're students from the 80s. Those from the 90s and the younger set have a longer way to go to travel than us. To get to where we are.
Yeah.
So I think it's putting in the building steps to go forward.
That was the objective of me starting this conversation more than anything else. I didn't want what we achieved at Meadowbrook to go in a black hole. I wanted to document it that students who follow me, even if I'm not here, can hear it and I say, Meadowbrook did this.
Yeah.
I know, come on and I tell them the story what Meadowbrook did for school challenge, for table tennis. Everything else is not just the football and the cricket, because those are the glamour sports, the big sports. But it's everything else, the academics, everything else. You see what I'm saying? So,
I want it to be like Campion, where people want to go. That it becomes the first choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my vision too. That's my vision to see. And I don't have to be a sports. When I have to focus on sports, it can be said, "Why you have a writing academy at Meadowbrook." You see what I'm saying?
No, the thing I would say about the sport though is, especially team sport, it makes you a more rounded person.
Definitely.
It teaches you how to get on with other people in life.
Definitely.
It prepares you for the office, where you end up with people that you would never ever take home, but you have to spend the day with them.
Definitely. No, team sport does that for you. I can attest to that.
And it prepares you to change to changing circumstances quicker. Adapt, I should say, to changing circumstances.
Yeah.
You're nimble because sports.
Nimble,
on
right.
the field, you have to make the decision, man. On the field.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of sports. I agree with Sarah. It's almost like we have to start with sports.
I think
it builds character quicker than anything else.
Yes, because you don't want to let down your teammate. How you feel when you drop that catch?
Right, and you get in interaction same day. If your exam, if you pass or fail, you get the interaction. You get in feedback the same day on the training ground in our cricket match, training player, a football match, or a table tennis match.
And I think it's also a recognition that not everybody is academic.
Right.
So it needs to be a school where people excel at whatever talent they have.
People at school, Sarah, we have to go back to the motto, where everybody can shine.
Yeah.
In their own way. That's the objective. So, Easton, same question to you. What made Meadowbrook magical? And can it be magical again?
Yes. Okay. So what made Meadowbrook magical for me was coming from an environment, like I said, primary school, going into the unknown, which in itself is magical, but everything unfolded And it's like all the pieces of the puzzle came together to make my life there much better. And I'm the happier for it. If I have any success in life, I can always attribute it to my experiences at Meadowbrook. So I will look at Meadowbrook, the magic, as an experience, as I said before, like a ride that you don't want to end or get off,
Yeah.
Can it be regained? I think it can be. And because so much of us had benefited from that foundation, we can contribute to it so that we can ensure, like Sarah said, in 65 years from now, when other students are having that conversation, we're not contributing it so that our names can be mentioned. We're contributing so that the conversation can happen at that time. One of the things that I think is key to that success is, again, what Sarah mentioned is we have to look on it as a business. And it's so funny Sarah mentioned Campion, because I was in a conversation with two people, one who was the bursar at Campion, and the other gentleman was a CFO at a company in Jamaica. And the question that was posed to the guy, bursar at Campion, what makes Campion such a success that, students are clamoring to get in that gate? And he said that they run it as a business. He's the bursar, but his role is the CFO there. And everything has to be accounted for, and every decision has to be accounted for. And even if the past students are contributing to the school, it goes through him, the bursar. And if the teachers now want something based on these monies or the students, everything is looked upon as a business. So it adds to, because this is how modern companies are run, everything is looked upon as a business, as before, where they don't care profitability or not, right? So I can only put that out there as, anybody who may be listening and want us to evolve to that school of choice that we once were, that we have to look at it as a business.
Yeah, man, I will put out this conversation immediately after Vivian want to. Trust me. After listening to this, I will make it further with it, because I want this dialogue to continue and reach a certain level. So I want it to go out there, Easton, because if it don't look on that way, they will waste of time.
Yes.
We're going to talk for another 5-10 years, unless we look and say, this is a business, how we're going to organize and structure, have shareholders, past into shareholders. And if you can share them shares, I give them shares to him family. That's how I have to look on it. That's simple as that.
Yeah, it's a reality that the government cannot give the funding to every school.
Yeah.
It should.
The government have to get the money from somewhere, Sarah. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And money.
And there's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to make a point before Dave comes in. I think also after the pandemic, I also think that we also need to look at the mental health of the kids that now attend school.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's also instilling not necessarily a guidance counselor, but here what they've done in England, they've introduced mental health support teams in schools. And I think we need to do something. I've seen fights on videos recently.
Yeah.
So we need to look at the well-being of these students as well. We're preparing them mentally to go out when they leave that gate.
Yeah. But even that conversation, Sarah, will require a whole heap of lifting, because mental health in Jamaica is looked upon.
No, I know. But the question is, we don't use mental health anymore. It's well-being.
Yeah, we have to rebrand the conversation. That's part of it. Conversation have to rebrand it.
But I certainly think that the schools of that size now must have a well-being officer, someone who is trained.
I agree. So you, Dave, what made Meadowbrook magical, and can it be magical again?
Just the experiences along the way. Friendships again with the likes of Sarah, Gary, Paul. As neighbors, Yolan, all those people. The neighbors, the people I met along the way, the teachers. But particularly, again, in my formative years at Meadowbrook, from particularly from sixth form, how I mentioned it before, how Dr. Morris herself, kind of like nudge me and cajole me towards a certain path that opened up another aspect of my personality. And to Sarah's point about the mental health, it's things like those that help to frame how we view ourselves, view others, and contribute to our own personal mental health. I mean, this is in the environment of school, separate and apart from your home, and the outside world. You may not have a good home life, but then you come to Meadowbrook, and Meadowbrook feel like family. And to some extent, that's how Meadowbrook felt to me. But to us, but to a small degree, it's only certain people. So it's the likes of Easton, Sarah, Dave, Norman, Garfield, and some others like Karen Lewis and Nerine and those people who were in our sixth form year, Sarah. That those people were like the sharp end of what you'd consider a close family in many respects. And it's just the way how everybody did what they thought best at the time for the betterment of everyone else. And if we can help to cultivate that in the younger ones, help them to think more broadly in that sense, then I think Meadowbrook will be, and to carry that on to future generation, I think Meadowbrook will be on its way back to being magical once again. To me, it's the people, and I might sound idealistic, and it might sound as if I have a heel over my head, but that's the furthest thing from my mind. But this is generally speaking, this is what I think is what will bring back humanity into our relationships.
Well, definitely, no heel over. So I look on it, Dave. Don't worry about that. That's exactly what I look on it. But anyway, before I close this out, I like ask all I know, everybody and any guests, is there any closing remark before I close it out myself personally? Sarah, you first.
I'd like to thank you for doing this because it's very time consuming, as I can see. And it's a labor of love. I can hear it in your voice, every conversation you have. I hope these conversations are kept for 100 years' time and people can play it back. But thank you for being part of the Meadowbrook family and doing this.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. And you, Easton, any closing remark?
Again, thank you wholeheartedly. I mentioned you before that, us as younger students at Meadowbrook, you were the ones that I also looked up to. And the fact that you're doing it now, is something that we can all look up to, because you are sharing your memories with us and allowing us to share our memories. And so other people can listen. And even if they don't ever get to share their memory, it will inspire something in them, kind of to recapture that experience that we all had at Meadowbrook. So thank you again as well. And it's a phenomenal thing that you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Easton. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Dave, any closing remark before I close this out?
Absolutely agree with Sarah and Easton, and I thank you as well. Even though I knew who you were, but thanks to Wayne Fuller in particular for just sending it out in initial blast here and there when you first started out, and to see, I haven't been able to listen to most of the interviews you put out, but I know they're all good. Even up to now, I haven't even finished listening to Margaret and Andrea's interview. I've listened to Nadine and Yolan, and I haven't listened to any of the teachers as yet. But they're all wholesome. That's all I can say.
Yeah, man, and they'll be there forever, as Sarah said. They'll be there whenever you want to listen to them.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Them not going nowhere. But thank you. So, Sarah Blair from across the pond, as I introduced it earlier, Easton Leiba, and Dave Robertson, I want to thank you all for spending the evening with me. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Like, We go to school together, but we're a different era, but it felt like we're in the same classroom. I really appreciate this conversation. And God
Likewise.
bless all of you, and God bless all of we, and that great school at 2 Meadowbrook Avenue will make this happen.
Amen.
And
2A Meadowbrook Avenue.
it's weird. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. I will start quoting the address right. Exactly. Thank you all for coming out, and have a good night, and God bless all of you, and God bless Meadowbrook High School. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. Cool. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So remember to like, share, and subscribe these Meadowbrook Memories podcasts, so neither you nor your friends will miss another memorable conversation. Thanks. Thanks for listening to Meadowbrook Memories, and remember to give us all the support and encouragement you can on whatever social media platform you are listening. And special thanks to my production manager, Kyle Prince, who takes care of everything involved in getting the podcast out every week. And without him, this podcast would not be possible. It is his expertise that allows me to do what I love doing every week, having great conversations about Meadowbrook Memories, and he's responsible for everything else. So again, thanks to my production manager, Kyle Prince.